Hello.
Also, hello.
I don't know why it went so extreme. But there we go. Hey, yes, it's the stream. I just logged into WoW and cleaned my bags. I think there was about 3.5 raw gold of, you know, the polearm and the helm that you get from that rare outside the Obsidian Citadel?
Oh, yes,
All
Captain Lancer. Yes,
Yep.
you get the Dragon Slayer Lancer, it's called, yeah.
So I've killed Captain Lancer for like the 50th time. Mm-hmm. Not a good raw gold farm, but hey, it's nice. Ah, dear. Plenty to talk about. And with the new patch coming out, I managed to do myself a Storm's Fury.
Yeah.
Grilling. It's a whole new game. Whole new game. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
Basically, I'm thinking about alts, and it's all that fucking primal chaos. I can see why Max, as much as like I saw Max's tweet, and I had, you know, the like instant little angry goblin that goes, "Arr, Mythic Raider entitlement," and then I thought about rolling an alt. I'm like, oh no, hang on a second. Yeah, hang on. Okay, no, fuck that. We actually, primal chaos, bind on account. Infusions, not bind on account. I think it would be kind of ridiculous to start a new alt up and just like randomly have, you know, heroic and mythic gear. But I think somebody getting, you know, a few crafted pieces of 392? Isn't that what a max rank no infusion crafted gear is?
Yes.
Bunch of 392s to help somebody along their way. Seems okay to me.
See, that's fair, but where does it end? Where does it end? Because if you get 392s, then...
Those entitled players, you give them an inch.
I mean, quite literally,
It's
yes.
a bit true, yeah.
I'll avoid saying entitled because it's a bit of an opinion difference of, you know, if you complete the gearing journey once, how much of it are you allowed to skip on an alt? Because if you know, the game really starts for you at over like 410 or something because you're doing high keys, then why not just be able to get to that point if you've got the rating for it completely free? Because why not? That's very good question. And that's the thing. Ned Stalker says alt should not have no effort but less. But then how less do you go until it goes less and less and then none? It's like fundamentally what's actually right.
Yeah.
How much do people enjoy gearing versus enjoy just playing the game without having to worry about gear? And that's where Blizzard have a little bit of a line in the middle to draw, sort of balancing act, if you will.
Yeah, and in fair to them, it does actually have to be an act because, you know, yeah, you go too far in one direction, and there certainly are negatives. Here's a funny little factoid for everybody.
Oh no!
Of our last 5 of our last 5 streams, 2 have been limited.
Oh dear!
Damn. No, as in like. Okay, just limited, not age restricted.
Yes, no, I think that's because I know
good.
there's one of them limited in ad revenue. That's what that means. I know one of them is because I think the word dead is in the title, which is now against YouTube's anti-bans.
Sorry, what?
Yeah.
There. As long as I don't... man, it's fine. It's, you know, the way we can put what the F in a title, and, you know, so we can have YouTube titles that say what the fuck, but it doesn't literally say fuck. It could be, you know, what the French, right? And we can get away with it.
Oh, according to the Associated Press, the AP style blog, you can't say the French anymore.
What?
Yeah, you're not allowed to call any groups, or you're not supposed to call any groups the X. You can't say the French. I don't know why it's in my head, but yeah, it's funny because I think it was some French organization responded and like jokingly changed their name because they're like something of the French. They're like, oh, I guess we can't call it that anymore.
Oh, that's good. So anyway, you know, it just means we can't say cunt, but we can say cun and fur. That'd be great. Oh man, don't you love profanity filters?
Indeed.
Wow.
But yeah, no, it doesn't matter because they're unlisted anyway. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. But yes, what are we even talking about?
We've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
I'll catch up stuff. But we'll maybe loop back to that later. Let's talk about this week in Azeroth. What has happened?
Yeah.
Okay, well, apparently, per the show notes, we are... You know what? Let's start off with something a bit less...
Let's show them.
Oh, yeah, let's actually do that, too. Let's not jump straight into dungeon balance on everyone. How about...
Again.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Let's do a juicy drama.
All
There's
right, yeah, start straight into the drama then. No worries.
Human and
Fantastic.
orc heritage armor, and the people are angry. Okay, it's really fine.
Yeah, it's
I'm
not.
kind of overplaying it for
Yeah.
the camera, but yes, the human and orc heritage armor is one of the new features in patch 10.0.7, which will probably come out in like I don't know, month and a half,
yeah.
something like that, maybe 2 months. No way, I suppose less than 77 days on average per the maths that we did. Now, these two screenshots have been met with a degree of criticism from people. Things such as, why do orcs always have to be grunts? Why can they not wear the skin of a wolf? And why is black now grey? Because of that thing where that's not black, that's grey. You know, people may be wanting a little bit deeper black so they can have like more contrast in their armor. So that's one thing that's been said. And the other thing that's been said is one or two of these things are a little bit ill-fitting, and it's very Stormwind, right? It's very Stormwind, and that's what I want to get into. But there is some good news here. There's going to be variations of these. So that's where I think Blizzard, I wonder if they thought, okay, we will do these and we will bait the people, right? We'll make Porter Gage really angry on Twitter, and Groxy, yeah, we'll make him really angry, and then we'll harvest their soul energy, and then we'll drop the variants.
Fantastic.
Maybe that's the plan.
Seems to have worked so far, at least.
Yeah. So well done, Blizz. Your plan's going well. All of the soul fuel that you can suck out of Twitter, the better. So yeah, they did kind of respond to things, just saying, for a bit of context, there will be more. People are basically just saying, decent but not unique enough. Like, we've had footman style armor a few times. I will say, I do quite like this. I like the whole, flowing robish thing. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that is nice. But
there's thoughts here.
Yeah.
So. And this actually kind of goes to our green lighting meeting, where we all propose ideas, and then some of them get a green light, and some of them get killed. But one of our things was about like, hey, can we make humans cool again? It's basically our MAGA video. let's get the humans and make them cool in WoW, because the whole thing is Stormwind is like generic ass humans, but then Warcraft 2 happens. And they decide to do like the 7 kingdoms and all of that. So really, with this, it's like, it's not Stormwind heritage armor. It should be human heritage armor. So, to be honest, I do kind of want an Arthur set and a maybe a Kultiran recolor, Stromguard sort of thing, Lordaeron set, right? I mean, hey, look at that big Lordaeron shield that everyone has. Well, okay, there's the Lordaeron shield that dropped from the funny lads.
The Dreadlords.
The Dreadlords, yes. The
How do
funny
you figure out
lads.
the Dreadlords are called?
Got me again. But remember that one you got from the Culling of Stratholme? The, default... It was weird.
Yeah,
it's like
the
your
red and white one, was it? Or?
Yeah, the one where your shield has 2 swords on it that you never use. So if you're like a Fury Warrior, you could be walking around with 4 two-handers. Fantastic. Anyway, yes, so... I do want to see what Blizzard's going to do. At the very least, I like the shoulders. I actually like loads of elements of this armor, so that's really cool. Even if it was just recolors and then, maybe changing 1 or 2 of like the little elements to have a flair of the other kingdoms.
Yeah,
but I think something like that would be cool.
For context, that looks way better than the actual one. Like,
oh yeah, fucking hell!
Did you realize did you forget you were looking at the?
Never mind.
The edited one.
I take it all back. You've got me. Nightsad? Nate Sade? You know what?
You're in your full boomer mode today.
It's fine. I will hide behind dyslexia. Haha. Yes. Once I said.
That's it. Yeah.
No, that's it. I wrote honk honk instead of Hong Kong.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember looking back at a script, and it was weird because like I was looking at the two words, I'm like, I know these are wrong, but I can't see how they're misspelled. Then the penny dropped. Okay, so this is awesome. This recolor is awesome. You know what? This is good, but I think the recolor shows moments for opportunity.
Yes, it is. That's the thing. I have so many like minor issues with it that I just don't particularly like it. There's because they've been a little bit. I'd say they've been very happy with putting their 3D like ornaments and stuff like that on, and you can tell it looks really cool with the shoulder. It's very nicely modeled, but there is a little bit of like because I've seen people complain about this as well. It looks like the mail and the plate elements are like way too grafted on instead of meshed in with the leather elements on it. So it looks a little bit like you have this.
Yeah, the chest is flat.
Yeah, you just have this big lumpy stuff sitting on top. So it looks like the silhouette's kind of all over the place in a way. It looks a little bit like you've got a leather armor set and then you've just said, I'll just grab some random plate bits and fire them on top.
When I said
they look all right
the chest
middle,
is flat, I was referring to 3D elements, and I was very stupid.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about how the isn't it the Drakthir armor is like a proper 3D chest plate thing that they've got.
Yeah,
it's in their character customization.
Yeah, it's that. There's also just honestly, the helmet is way too long and silly looking.
I have just noticed how fucking minuscule her head is.
Yeah.
Look at this big fucking chin.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Maybe that's because of what they have to do for other head sizes or something. Because I've noticed that with a lot of armor sets, they have really long pointy chins for some reason. It doesn't really look particularly good. There's some parts are good, and like the detail and the embellishment is good, but generally it just doesn't look like a great piece of armor.
It's them trying to take the Warcraft footman.
Yeah,
but it works. You know the way that like males in Warcraft are kind of like they're more ape-like compared to us, and they're super long arms.
Yeah,
and like just like their sort of musculature and stuff. But it doesn't really translate over. Okay, so the human female in WoW, like just kind of looks like a normal woman, but like the human man in Warcraft is like a pretty different proportion to a standard human man.
Supermarine, as I said,
yeah. So it's like it doesn't really scale that well.
Yeah, I also think the other issue I have with it, and this is a little bit more of I would like to see more. It's just that I don't know if humans have any identity with this, because this is just Alliance, this is just Stormwind, this is just, oh yeah, there's blue and gold and some silver. There's just, you're wearing this and you're walking around fucking holding Anduin's cape behind him as he walks about, which some people might like, but it's a little bit more, where's any actual human culture? And maybe the quest line does a good job of explaining like where it is or whatever else, but it is still just like, it's nice, but it's not fantastic. And I don't look at it and go, oh yeah, that's what humans are supposed to look like. I look at it and go, oh yeah, it looks like a decent version of say the Primal Storm set. It looks like a decent version of that with a little bit more effort and a little bit more 3D applied to it. Which is like, for humans, I would like to see humans have something special as opposed to their kind of, what are you? Oh yeah, you're an Alliance thing?
Do you know what I want?
What?
Stromguard IRA. As in, I want a little bit of texture in the humans, right?
Yeah.
They're right now they're all just very, ooh, we're humans, we love Anduin. My job is the way like Snoop Dogg has he has a joint roller.
Yeah.
It's like Anduin has a tear wiper.
Yeah.
Just like on his staff, who's always with him to like wipe his tears whenever he gets sad and meditates on his many traumas. And that's all fine and good, but I would like a bit more edge. I'd like there to be human characters that say the end of Mists of Pandaria that actually do want to just go kill people. Or, just something to inject the Alliance with a bit of oomph, right? Because we're so fucking boring. Like, okay, the dwarves, they get, they got to have some fun, right? With, all of the sort of misgivings between all the different dwarves. Gnomes are gnomes. Night elves, a bunch of them are pissed. I want to see stuff happen.
A bunch of them are terrorists.
Yes.
Working for the Primalists. Yeah.
So I want more of that. But like not in a this NPC has totally faction flipped, as in like I want Night Elf culture to brush up against it, and I don't want it to happen in a way where it's like, oh, Taronda's lost the run of herself again. Oh no, she's angry and she's put on her eyeshadow. Shit, which is the the rather. I mean, I will say just a bit tropey feeling sometimes thing that Blizzard likes to do. Basically, can we have there be texture within the humans that doesn't involve either Taronda or Jaina getting a makeover and becoming really angry?
Yeah.
Because I think if they pull that one again, people will turn around and say, hello, Blizzard, please. Why do you keep on putting them through the same character arc again and again and again?
Yeah.
I want, the whole true heir to Lordaeron thing that was going on with the Brotherhood of the lads. What are they called? Scarlet Brotherhood. And they set that up in BFA, and it's not really went anywhere since. I want to see more of that. Like, what if they decide, hey, Kingdom of Arathor, we're gonna have it back? What if they want to secede? Right?
Yeah.
What if, what if they don't want to be under the yoke of Stormwind, because there's no king of Lordaeron or anything. That's just the Forsaken. But what if, now that Stromgarde, of course, has been captured, what if they decide, you know what, fuck you Stormwind pricks, we want to have our own culture. Yeah, look at our original leader, man, big fucking Conan the Barbarian ass man. We want him, not you and your silly little blonde.
Yeah, there's so much history there with the humans. They could do that. It's like, as European says, humans need a Grim Totem, and I think the Grim Totems are largely underdeveloped and underdone, even with Korog being like a nice Grim statement there, or Grim or Korog being part of it, and that kind of not been
Upper Razagath.
Yeah, Upper Razagath. So I think that's interesting. But your pawn also pointed out that and I think there's something I'm thinking about a lot too, is we should have got Vrykul armor as our heritage, because that's human heritage. And I think that would even be the beginning of a human heritage that's different and goes, hey, humans are more than just Stormwind. Humans are more than, the clans ended up being humans. What happens when you go back into the actual past of humans? What happens? You see, where did humans come from? Because dwarves know that well. Okay, some dwarves know that with like the origin of the earthen and the trogs and stuff. And then gnomes obviously have stuff. Everyone else is like, their origin has been dealt with, but the humans have never had that actually lived through. So I think characters will do that in a fun way.
What if a bunch of Northern Irish World of Warcraft YouTubers were working at some form of video on this very topic right now? And what if I was going to record it over the weekend? Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, exactly. Oh. It's stuff that we've been thinking about, and it's an opportunity for, I think, what people go, oh, just the blandest fantasy people. But then you look at how many people play humans, and it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot, and they deserve something a bit more interesting, I think. Yeah,
like, the whole thing about humans being boring, it's like, okay, I can get how you could say that. But one of the things I think that is useful for having humans in a fantasy setting is it's us dropped into a fantasy setting. And as we know from the real world, we're a pack of dickheads, and there's a lot of texture, a lot of politics, a lot of skullduggery. I think the more that is done, instead of having these weird like Walt Disney Castle humans, WoW's always best when it's not Walt Disney Castle humans. Snag Prophet said, Bellular Warcraft, our Grim Totem is Defias and Scarlets. Yes, and one of the things that I really liked back, in the older days, is back in the days where dragons were few and far between and everything was scary. Just over that river in Duskwood, there was a wolf that would like 3-shot you and you'd be terrified. And the Defias are like, you get this profound feeling that Stormwind is a kingdom stretched too thin, potentially in, decline. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that maybe kind of helped people enjoy the human setting, right? There was enough struggle in it. Whereas I think now, like, the Alliance is this humongous geopolitical power block. They're at times like they're more defined by humans than any of their other constituent races. I mean, I'm not saying that I want some sort of political thriller in every expansion, but I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, it's like you can throw enough of those subplots in that it actually feels like it's worth going through. Even if it's a case of, listen, we have to mount an assault on X, but there is a blocker to it, and even if it's a couple quests of just, hey, this supply line has been held up by human rebels, and it's going to stop us from able to mount this assault on the Dragon Isles for whenever we're going to fight Ridicron. Okay, we're going to need you to go to Westfall, find the leader, and what we did back in the day, when we just sent you lads in to kill the shit out of Van Cleef, and then his daughter went mad, so we just did this exact same place and killed her in the same place. It's fine, she's not dead. But the whole, like, we don't do that anymore. We're a little bit more, we're a little bit less militant, and even under like Trallian, it's maybe Trallian's chilled down a bit. We go, okay, try to strike up a deal because we know we've done them wrong. We know we've done them wrong. We know how war happens to people. We know how things go. Sit with them at the negotiating table for like a couple of lines of dialogue, then we'll just resume our normal business of supply lines restored. We go fight Ridicron, etc. And that's all it takes. I think all it takes is like that plot line to be happening and have updates every now and again for people to go, oh, there's actually like there's repercussions that we have to sort, and then that makes players feel like valued enough. Even if you're not going to solve it, even if you're there like acting as a bodyguard for some like I guess some noble or someone who's doing the negotiating, or if Trallian sends, here there's an SI7 delegate, you know, if you tag along with them, they'll sort things out. Then when they've sorted things out, they'll join you at the Dragon Isles. Something like that. A little bit of like quid pro quo with one of the organizations would help the whole like ecosystem of the alliance feel more alive. And it wouldn't take very long, I don't think.
Are the syndicates still going?
I haven't a clue.
Yeah, basically more of that. Now, the Dragon Knight, who, has been a member for 8 months, hence the cool, shiny diamond logo. We want good characters with good story, intrigue, conflict. And honestly, the whole alliance just needs some internal conflict like the Horde. That's the bit where I like the warm, welcoming feeling of the world of Warcraft right now. But that being said, I am a little bit worried that they could overcorrect. And I suppose my worry with the Horde, right, is that they form this council and then they never, they just don't have drama because they all just hold hands. And maybe actually that's okay for the Horde right now because they have had just constant bullshit. But if that is going to happen, then I think the Alliance needs to have that intrigue. I am completely down with, say, dethroning Anduin. Someone trying to end that royal line because they don't think Anduin is fit to be king
especially after his absence, yeah.
After his absence, after his fun little flitting around with Void, the whole the Scarlet Brotherhood wanting to, I think they want to install Terralion because he's like a good boy from the old days, but like eventually with an eye to ostensibly restoring the Menethil dynasty up in Lordaeron, but with this like child that they have. This is something like 99.9% of WoW players have no idea because it's just in a pamphlet that appeared in BFA. But yeah, there's this group called the Scarlet Brotherhood, and they claim to have the brother of Kalia and Arthas. Mm-hmm. Or Kalia's child? You know what? I actually forget.
I think it was Kalia's child.
Yeah, it was Kalia's child. That was it. So like that's a really good opportunity for intrigue. I would like to see some, proper Night Elf anger, I guess. I would just I'd really like to see more of that. And I'm saying this all as an Alliance player, and it's purely just because I think those are all great opportunities for storytelling. So there's that. Dragonite, thank you for being a member. And yes, if you are a member, one of the new features, well, it's not new now, but it's been there for a while. One of the features is essentially a super chat that's included free every month. And also to the channel members, we were a bit slower on production for the first few weeks of January, which is why there hasn't been the early access videos. That's because we've essentially been trying to do things right and refine our processes and be better at making videos. That being said, the Dragon Retcons video, I've just noticed, is up. So, tomorrow I'll get that up. Maybe this evening. I'll see. I'll get that up for the patrons and for the channel members. Now, we actually do have quite a few I was about to call them heritage chats.
Heritage chats, yeah.
Super chats. So, the Akachi. I think heritage armor being Stormwind is fine, as the Dwarven armor was pretty much Ironforge, inspired humans' original start to Stormwind. I see no issue reinforcing that identity. Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. Yeah. I would say, well, okay, number one, the Dwarf heritage armor and the Iron, the Dark Iron Dwarf heritage armor, like, it's incredible. Especially, like, if you are, you know, it's one of the things that I imagine if we got the Guillermo del Toro Hobbit movies, like maybe what his original vision was, that is almost what I imagine with the Ironforge Dwarf heritage set. So yeah, I agree. It's beautiful. I would say, like, yeah, fair enough. I would like to see opportunities to expand that. I suppose one thing that Blizzard did, and this is maybe their challenge, right? Blizzard did a pretty good job with the addition, or sorry, with the changing of the character customization options for the dwarves, because you can make a Wildhammer dwarf now, and I guess that's kind of interesting because with the humans, I mean, apparently Kultirans are just really big. You know, there's no body type differentiation. Mm-hmm. But then with like the way that humans are done, there's no difference, or there's no like defining characteristic like
armor and stuff.
Yeah. So it kind of means that they're not. Yeah, all humans are Stormwind humans that appear in Northshire Abbey, but they haven't really found a way of somebody being a human from Alterac, a human from Lordaeron, and those would be really, really, really strong character fantasies that I think they should probably find a way to support.
Yeah, because the way you set that up is just by going like, hey, here's a set of haircuts that are inspired by this tribe of people. Here's what they look like. Here's a book. Here's a couple of concept art illustrations on the website of. Here we sat down and we figured out what are these like clans of humans look like. This. Just something that people get to just click on the menu and go, yep, in my head canon, my guy is like this now. Because that's all they really need to do. It's just a little bit of that, I think.
Yeah. Let's see. So we got a super from Dark Soul 9669. We will get to this topic soon. Biggest disappointment of the Warden set is that it's a case of artificially holding subs without needing, essentially without like real content being attached to it, and thinking that the trading post shouldn't have an incentive beyond month to month. I think overall that would be ideal. We'll really jump into this question more soon enough, because it is like in our list of topics. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world when we're in a world where the Violet Protodrake exists and there's no way to
That's an interesting comparison. We'll dig into that.
Yep. There's no further monetization, I guess, to it. I do, though, think that look, if you want a 12-month reward, that's totally fine. But I think that tying it in to the, tying it into the matching mount that you get in the first month, that is the bit that I think is kind of sketchy, the separation of the two. Saying like, oh, hey, here's the little teaser for the fantasy. Stay for 12 months for the real thing. That's the bit that I think they should have calmed down on and just had a different reward. Like a different random reward in the way that the Violet Protodrake's like, oh, yeah, here's another Protodrake.
Yep.
Yeah. Morrigan Blackthorn, thank you for the £5 super. I would genuinely just like to see unique cultures instead of the fantasy allies versus Warsaw Pact. Yeah. Dissolve factions and make races important again. I think that is exactly what I would like to see. I think it's good if it happens within the context of strong factions. And I mean, bringing up the Pact is kind of fun because, like, within, lots of movements who are kind of thinking, we don't exactly want to be a part of this Pact. It's not great. So I think like if the factions are strong, but then within that you have like the races actually trying to kind of fight for their own things, right? Because like not every country in the EU gets along perfectly. Not every country in NATO spends 2% of their GDP on defense, and that leads to bristling between the countries.
Yeah, I think
and I think more things like that. That is a way of harnessing big factions to create more like political incentives for like, you know, all the different groups and different races. I do though, like, yeah, man, more racial content would be great.
Yeah, I think
I mean, the Heritage Armor, at least we may actually get a human story that's good, or an orc story that's about being an orc and the history of orcs.
Hopefully. Yeah, and I think for me that comes across as, I guess, wanting to re-examine the factions. Because the factions are a thing that's like, yeah, here's the Alliance Nord. And at the beginning of World of Warcraft, they went, here's why the Alliance exists, here's why the Horde exists. And they haven't really done a good job of re-examining that under any of the contexts in which the game has changed or the world has changed within the game. So I think they do need, like, they need characters in the world to ask, why does the Horde exist? And specifically, why does the Alliance exist? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, you get the Night Elves going, listen, why are we here? Because it feels like all the times that every time you guys need help, we're there to show up. When we need help, you don't help us. This is a one-sided affair. We want out. And then whatever happens, and you go, okay, actually, maybe we are stronger together. You know, maybe the Night Elves just get wrecked again because they secede, and then they go, shit. Well, that'd be a terrible story. But you do the same for like the gnomes, the dwarves. You do the same for any of the Alliance race and go, okay, now the Alliance actually has a purpose.
Imagine having neutral humans. Like, even just that, imagine a group secedes. Imagine Arathor, you know, like Stromgarde, like they form the Old Kingdom, secede from the Alliance, become neutral with both parties. Holy shit. Yeah. I mean, just look at all the potential that could be there. And maybe these, you know, humans that have their proud heritage that they have, maybe there's like orcs who kind of look at that and are like, okay, we respect that. And I mean, for them, it could be interesting too, because it would be going back over the water to where they were, you know, initially invaded and were then enslaved after the Second War. And I know that could maybe be a bit of a touchy story, but I think those are the stories that actually can be the most interesting and have the most, you know, real shit in them. And I think when people really adore stories like in, you know, in FF14, it's like, it's because it's touching and real shit.
People also like the side quests they've added in Dragonflight that are very real. People like the Vertistra stuff, and that was heavy enough from a personal perspective. The one with the Dragon Maw, that's pretty heavy. Like that is literally, oh yeah, this Orc clan, we did some horrible things. How do we engage with that? I think that would be also good for, like, even because I'd love to see a world with a human and Orc heritage are actually two parts of the same story. And I know it's not going to be this based on like the armor and stuff, but one of the things that would be beautiful to see would be you get to some, it may be like kind of old soldiery vibes, but you get to see the humans go, oh yeah, remember the time we threw a lot of orcs in camps? That was kind of grim. And then orcs get to go, remember the time we get thrown in camps? That was kind of grim.
Yeah.
But then the humans go, well, I mean, we did have a good reason for throwing you in the camps. You were going around murdering us. And then they go, yeah, to be fair, this kind of was your place, and we came through the portal. And yeah, we were led here under false pretenses. That wasn't very nice of us, but we still, you know, we were following orders, but we still executed them, so it is kind of our problem. And just having like human and orc dialogue around that through a couple of named characters and a couple of fight scenes where someone gets angry and you have to kind of hold them back. Things like that. Even this is the awkward part where you struggle with having class mechanics that are there. But the amount of times it's like, right, what do you do in a fight? You fight someone. You take their HP down. But where it'd be nice to have a world where it's like, oh yeah, right. Everyone has CC, you have to CC this. You have to, like, as a druid, as an example, you have to root people so they don't hit each other. Things like that would be really nice if they can find ways to, in the same way they have, like, say they've, like, I can't remember how many mage tower fights they have, but there's so many mage tower fights. And then they sort of split them up and go, well, you 3 DPS have this because you have the same set of mechanics. Doing that for, like, a one quest fight that's like, right, you have some form of CC, or if you don't have a CC of, like, a displacement or something, you have to use this enough times to keep them from fighting each other. Just so you get to see a little bit of that, like real actual tension from characters in the world based on the human and orc heritage. Because there's heritage in the sense of the Vrykul, but then there's heritage in the sense of the oldest humans' lived memory, which, like, a modern human heritage would probably be, maybe it wouldn't even be people in the war anymore. It'd be like the Cold War. Or like here it'd be people living through the Troubles, even though younger people haven't like had to experience that very much. That would be the stuff that I think people would really remember. that really remember that experience and go, oh, that was like, that had a bit of bite to it. I had to do something that was a bit unusual. And so it's like little moments of creativity I think people actually remember really well.
Yeah, like not every story has to be a big fantasy thing. There can be things happening within a fantasy world that makes that fantasy world feel super real. Which, I mean, I think I would definitely like. Andrew, Super DOS, $5. Thank you. And said, as a long-time Alliance player, it's always been my experience from friends joking at me that we're a faction led by Disney princesses. Great take.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, that's it. And
no
it
two
is.
ways to put that, yep.
I think that's why Arathor specifically, so many people are just like super down for that. Absolutely. Mike Steele, super saying Blizzard needs to shake things up with construction instead of destruction too. Retake and rebuild Gilneas via server progression.
I think they'd likely have some of that planned. It's just it'll be a while, I imagine.
It's the kind of thing where if imagine there was just like a Warcraft expansion. That wherein the expansion itself was about rebuilding the world.
Yeah, I think that would work.
Not just rebuilding. Like there would be plenty of political tension. Maybe in my head, this is where you would have some neutral factions of traditionally factioned races appearing, like that Arathor thing. Yeah. But even if Blizzard wanted to, revamp Azeroth in an expansion plus 3 patches. Yeah. You could almost think of a way that you could do that in an expansion with deeply kind of faction rooted and themed narratives. Sarah Hartsong, thank you for joining as a member. Either this evening or tomorrow, there will be a new early access video ready for you to go. And that's what's up there. I also should have a vlog over the weekend. Grant Johnson, super does $2. Thank you, and said, I want Paladin, Human, and Orc, Shaman heritage armor. Well, that's the thing. Yeah. Loads of people, they want a wolf pelt. And really what that makes me think, though, is we should maybe instead think about class orders.
Yeah.
Can we actually... I mean, as an example, they put NPCs into the order halls based on some of the new stuff that they've opened up in this patch, didn't they? I forget what the NPC was, but like a trainer NPC or something to reflect that.
Done a rogue. Yeah, High Mountain Torn rogue, I think, and they fired a normal rogue out for it, I think. Yeah, so something like that, if they've done that, that clearly indicates, because like the High Mountain Torn weren't an allied race at the start of that expansion. So to me, that clearly indicates Blizzard thinks that these order halls still exist. Now, if they still exist, I think we should have some content around them. And if you wanted to start having, class sets that hit different fantasies or class content, remember, like, people have been clamoring for more class quests since, like, the beginning, essentially. So I think that there's a lot of potential with that. Yeah, a lot indeed. Andrew also supered. Also, if Blizzard cannot ruin any more female characters by having them go through a psycho phase, it would be too soon. Jane in Toronto was rough. Yeah. I have a funny feeling they know that a lot and won't let it happen again. That said, if there's any even slightly psycho beef from Alex Strauss in this expansion, I will just scream from the rooftops. Like, I'm sure nothing will happen there. Nothing. If anything happens that's a bit reactive, it'll be very measured and very appropriate, as opposed to woman angry. There's your plot. You're like, I think that she has a lot of composure as a character. Yeah, that wouldn't happen. She needs to keep it and hold it. Yeah, no, anyone else? I don't. I think they're aware that everyone's picked up in their tropey handling of those characters. Yeah, I'd imagine so. Dark Lord Soren, thank you. That's actually kind of cool. There's like a little notification that says celebrate the first super chat. It's got a little popper. Neat. Well, first of all, thank you. What pains me is the Warfront armor is basically looking better to me than the Heritage armor ended up looking like. That's their problem. Those sets were pretty cool. Yeah, they literally made the heritage armor, but didn't call it heritage armor. And then they're like, well, now we need to make heritage armor. Shit, what do we do?
Yeah, they might actually have a challenge making it feel different, especially even remember the orc and funny again, the orc and human armor from Warlords of Draenor.
Yep.
Right, in WoD you could basically get a Stormwind Guard outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's certainly that's certainly tricky for them. Morrigan also super 10 quid, thank you, and said, I only really care about the elves because of my Gaelic heritage, but remove that and humans are just fantasy Americans. Horde have more culture, but they should integrate more RPG elements into the creator.
Yeah, fantasy Americans is really, really... Obviously, they're American developers, so you're going to have to expect some of that. But I think Europeans look at that and go, why do Americans think the world started when their country did? Because it definitely didn't. Humans are so interesting in so many different ways. And the fact that they usually have to go, well, it was Night Elves. Night Elves,
did you know that
they're like Night Elves, they're Asian. And you go, oh, Dwarves, they're like closer to Celts in a couple of ways, even though it's a bit...
Do you know that we have running water and electricity in Ireland?
Oh,
we
yeah.
even have the internet.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
But yeah, I think that's the... It is frustrating when humans could be. Humans end up being the default because I think this is... Well, okay, I think there's a good reason for it.
Mm.
Humans are included. I remember, there was some MMO creator, some relatively popular one. He did a load of interview rounds and was very happy to talk to people. Talked about it once and said something along the lines of like, you need humans because people need to relate to characters. And a lot of people have struggled relating to a character that literally doesn't look like them. And that's... obviously, from that perspective, I think that's ridiculous. To the prospect that someone can play an elf or a dwarf and go, yeah, 100%. I can totally empathize with this character that looks not like me. I think people are like, I don't know, maybe it's an intellectual capability thing or something.
No, I'd recommend looking up a few points of human history.
Yeah.
Not necessarily history. Looking up points of human current day.
Yeah, I mean in the video game context, obviously. But I think humans have to be kind of milquetoast so people can see the thing on the character select screen that makes their brain go, yeah, that's me, that's home, and click it. But I just think that shouldn't bar them from having stories in that game that are a bit more interesting in terms of their actual history.
Yeah, I want to see more of what makes like the human kingdoms actually feel different compared to like their other points of inspiration. And I guess same goes for everything else where they kind of just went, what, Native Americans? You're Tauren. Scottish people? You're dwarves. But I mean, everyone's been doing that with fantasy races since, a pretty long time anyway. Yeah. So it is like, it's one of those common pitfalls. I think that there's more that they could kind of mine out of that. I think it's their elves that really were the coolest, like this mixture of...
Night elves were
the druids, which is kind of like you're bringing in the Gaelic side of things, and also Japan.
Yeah, it's like
that's a cool mix.
Seeing all of their, like, when you go play Classic, and I don't know how much of this was evident in... I'd say maybe some of the architecture in Warcraft 3, but you play WoW Classic, you see a lot of the Night Elves being like, oh, this is really Pan-Asian. There's like... I remember first finding out what I'm terrible Korean pronunciation, so I'm not going to say it, but like the Korean dresses and Korean food. I remember seeing that and literally being introduced to its existence for the first time, playing Classic and like doing Night Elf stuff and seeing it. Oh, what the hell's that mean? Oh, that's a Korean thing. Okay, cool, interesting. And then seeing like everything being like inspired by Torii gates and stuff. And like, oh yeah, you look at some of the names and they're very generic fantasy, and then you look at like the language and it's like, what the hell what's that? You see a lot of the wild god stuff from, like you're saying, the Gaelic stuff, and that's like just Korea and Japan. Like, that's especially when people go, oh, you think of like a dark skinned elf and everyone goes, oh, drow. But less and less now people are like, oh, Night Elves, because World of Warcraft's such a cultural like juggernaut. It actually was the first unique race they actually had. Still is, more or less.
Yeah. I mean, I'd give their orcs a mention.
Yeah.
Because I know they did start off as just
better,
orcs, but like they very quickly, became good. You got a super from Aaron. Super was $5 and said, Night Elves just need someone to stand up for them again. Lost that going into Cat with Metzen, moving on, and Samwise in the boiler room working on HOTS. Ain't that it? Yeah, like, we want Night Elves to be like how they were, at least somewhat more, in Warcraft 3. Which, you know, it just kind of dawns on me, though. How many people actually remember Night Elves as they're supposed to be versus the newer kind of way softer nature-y Night Elves? Like, obviously they've always been super nature-y, like, of course, but like, you know, the Night Elves are like these fucking humans in our forest, kill them.
Warcraft 3 Night Elves, there's nothing better than Warcraft 3 Night Elves.
Yeah, they were great.
They're fantastic.
But most of the people who are playing WoW haven't played Warcraft 3.
Yeah, Night Elves.
I mean, Warcraft 3 was 2003.
Yeah.
It was
No, 2001, isn't it?
almost 20 years ago. What? Oh yeah, and then Day of the Dragon came out 2002.
No,
Or was
I'm
it the other way
talking.
around?
It's 2000. It was released in 2002, and yeah.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So
Yeah, so that is a literal 20-year-old game, so it's not, I'm not expecting people to have played it. It's more just to say, like, there was way more of a isolationist edge to the Night Elves.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they should become isolationists again, but there was... you could feel their warrior culture. Because you weren't really dealing with the druid men.
Yeah.
You know, you're dealing with the sentinels, and, like, their warrior culture really stood out.
Yeah, that's the thing. You were dealing with the druid men, and that was like, this is break glass in case of emergency. These are druids of the claws. They turn into barons and destroy you.
Oh, yeah.
And like that stuff was fun, but otherwise, and especially like I remember the introduction to them, and the way it was done. It was the orcs were encroaching, and they didn't know the Night Elves were there, and they were just chopping down some wood at the edge of Ashenvale in order to set up a lumber camp and get some fire and get some buildings, and then they were terrified because they heard the trees whispering, and they could see wisps, but they didn't know what they were, and then all of a sudden these like wearing almost nothing warrior women sprinted out of the woods and killed a load of the peons and workers. And they're like, oh, what the hell was that? We didn't even see them clearly that fast. What's going on? Why did that camp die? You could feel like the fear of what the hell have we encountered. And then you see a load of trains and stuff from being somebody go, have we angered the spirits of the woods themselves? Obviously scenarios, literally yes. But it was more that they were like one and the same, and it was absolutely terrified. Like,
yeah, actually, Malfurion in it's not called A Good War. It's the other novella that was contained in the collector's edition of BFA. It's one of those, and you remember, like, oh yeah, Malfurion's really scary.
Yeah,
like the way he's written is really, really scary and powerful.
Just in game,
you never see it. You never see him be cool in game. Rhonda. Oh man.
That's sad.
Okay, Dylan, Super does $5 said, love the idea of mercenary guilds which could be cross-faction, non-guild PvP flagging, introduced by internal faction strife. Yeah, I mean, hey, why not? Why not have more, even, you know, I think about the Steamweedle cartel. Just factions that are not the factions, or are not expansion feature factions, like just other forces, other groups in the world. I think that's the kind of thing to go for. And I suppose as well, if I was Blizzard, I'd be thinking, like, we cannot do, like, new escalating threats every expansion. They obviously know that with Dragonflight. Because you can't just have world-ending threat, world-ending threat, world-ending threat, world-ending threat. Like, at some point, instead of just, like... Well, instead of just this thing where, like, you're always trying to top the last dude that you killed, which is going to be, like, that is so hard. From a writing perspective to keep that actually feeling good. Instead just making the world itself more storied by individuals acting like individuals. I mean, that's one of the things I think that people like. There's a really big canvas with so many different places in Azeroth and stuff that appeals to everyone pretty much that... Well, you could always imagine things going on, right? There's so many, like, what-ifs. Think of all the, you know, even alternate history ideas that somebody could come up with. You know, what if this never happened? What if this did happen? I think that all just shows that it's a world that could have a lot of storytelling. And I think that's why there's been some player frustration that we really dialed into a few big marketable characters, and it felt like we were following their smaller story and the consequences that had in the world, rather than there just being big stories in the world.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a little bit of a more conceited effort to fan things out and get a little bit more of. I think that's weird, right? Because modern storytelling requires. I think. Have we effed? We have momentarily effed. We'll be back. We'll be un-effing very shortly. The number is going up. No, the number's staying down. Whoops.
Is the NAS on?
It shouldn't be doing anything. Though it did not, to be fine. It's not. Unless it's ignoring what I tell it to do, in which case I will rage. Nope, there we go. I think I might have just been a random whoopsie. Hello, we are... I'll give it a couple seconds. Just to get it going. It is... Well, it's still saying red.
Yeah, we're still dropping frames ostensibly.
Yeah. Hang on a second. Okay, well, we're fine. We're fine now. No, what were we saying? Lamau about that fine Irish technology like internet and TV. Shut up, ID2K. Go away. Anyway.
Played ourselves there.
About the amount of... I think the amount of storytelling in the world. It's going to... Yeah, hell, I'll go with my big spiel anyway. Modern storytelling, I think, or not even for MMOs, but I think a lot of people expect now complete end-to-end stories. People want a big, right, here's how it started with A, here's what happens at B, and here's how it ends at C. People want the whole thing. But I think a lot of what World of Warcraft was very good at was leaving the middle out. Sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes leaving the end out accidentally.
Whoops.
And sometimes not having a start. Where it was more or less just they randomly dotted things around. And if it didn't get finished, no one cared because there was so much that they went, oh yeah, that never got finished, but sure, whatever. It's like you just need things to kind of happen to get the experience of a living world. It's like the Delicious Mystery said, WoW could use more life on the roads, like Kodo Trains, Kalimdor, Gilneas Wagons, Eastern Kingdoms. it's like stuff like that, I think, where if you encounter something on the road and go, oh, that was cool, there you go, you kind of wonder after what happened with that. But then because it's not framed as this is a quest line in the game, it's just stuff that happens. This is the world living. Things begin, sometimes they don't always end. It's like what's happening with if you think about it in the terms of real life, it's like some people are just in the middle of their own questions for their entire lives and never get to finish them. You always see someone who someone at the shop gets a haircut. Or like somebody you see regularly but don't know. You're like, oh yeah, look at that person's clearly like, the sense of, is it Sonder? Where you suddenly realize that everyone around you is like a fully realized human being with their own internalized universes. I go around going, oh, you mean everything that I've been through, that person's been through, like relatively similar things, and that person, everyone driving a car in this motorway is as stupid and prone to falling asleep late at night because I'm playing video games. I've been tired in the morning as I am. Oh shit, this is dangerous. I think they lack a little bit of doing that intentionally a lot of the time. They're getting better at it for sure. Yeah. They're getting way better at it. But I think that's the stuff that makes it feel thing alive. We just need to tell more stories that way. And this is the hateful part. Because I prefaced everything by saying people expect modern storytelling to be complete. Blizzard need to bring attention to it. And that's why side quests have been good. Because side quests intentionally go, come here, there's a quest. And doing all of this other stuff, it means people are more likely to miss it. It's like every other time or was it last week we discussed things about like details in the raid that were storytelling details. And obviously you viewers are more in tune than the average player by a substantial margin. And like even then some people are like, oh, I didn't notice that. Or, oh, I never thought of that way. And then you go, well, why would Blizzard put the effort in if they're going to like lose it or not have people see it? Like, well, what's the point? Which just means more side quests, and then have it to be continued or not at the end of the side quest, I guess. I don't know. Find a cheeky way to do it, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm down for that. Mm-hmm. So something that I guess may come up via Andrew. So we'll have a storyline where it combines survivors of Lordaeron and Forsaken, rebuild Stratholme, Lordaeron, etc., even be a Lordaeron faction. That's at least speaking to one thing that I think a lot of people have wanted to see more of in WoW for a long time. Yep. Hell, we even got that Lordaeron shield from the Dreadlords in at the end of Shadowlands, which was a bit funky. But yeah, it's like we want Lordaeron, and Well, I guess it's like, how do you even... Because I have pulled the Forsaken forward quite a bit with 9.2.5. The shockingly good patch that like, okay, it was like a day of content, but it still was a good patch narratively, which was a shock for BFA. I guess like another side point to that, that is an interesting one in terms of how it's actually executed in game from Morrigan, who dropped a super and said, they killed the ethnography in their setting. Tolkien made Numenor and Rohan unique physically and culturally in order to not make it shallow. They should have added more unique cultures in BFA. And I guess that, like, that is the thing. You look at, say, I don't know, the world George R.R. Martin has created, where Westeros is, more of a kind of like a Europe analog. So most of the people there do, look like Europeans. Obviously, you go south to Dorne, that changes. You go to the Summer Isles, that changes. You go way over to the east to Ashai, that changes. And that's one of those things where, like, at least and very much unlike the TV show by the end, but you do get a feeling of, oh yes, this is a humongous, extremely vast world, and we're only really getting a small story in its Europe. And like that's modeled after European history. And that, I guess that, like, yeah, that is something. With Warcraft, they've very much chosen not to do that. I think a part of the reason is because it's an MMO, and I think their perspective is like, okay, look, we don't have... Well, I mean, that's basically the thing. It's fantasy Americans. So, it is a big melting pot, rather than, say, the more historical, like, say, the George Martin side of things.
Yeah, people should come here for a while and try to understand someone who's down the road, and then wonder why the hell, like, why is everyone in the entirety of World of Warcraft speaking common all the time? Why is there no like stories of, oh yeah, here was orders translated to a different military group and it went wrong because the translation was screwed? Because for some reason people from, like, say, around the Arathi Highlands all write weird. Same language, but they just like have different like ways of writing, and letters got confused and stuff like that. Or numbers are written slightly differently. All those like tiny details. And I am mostly thinking about how different humans are 20 minutes down the road here. Like, that's a distance you could walk if you really wanted to. And just unintelligible, honestly. The amount of effort we have to go to for you to understand us is crazy. Not even joking. Taking a little bit of the piss, but generally it's actually it's a serious point that I think is just a little bit... I suppose that's what happens when you have fantasy races, right? You have fantasy races and then you don't have to do this with humans. You just go, and the humans and the orcs have a problem. Instead of going, the humans from X and the humans from Y have a problem. But then you get the problem of your game's big enough. You're like, why are all the humans the same? You're like, fuck, I thought we avoided this problem.
Yeah, because then it's like... Well, yeah, no, exactly. So it's like, then how do you make the humans look and feel different in a world where, I mean, Spanish person, Swedish person, decent Irish person, right, will all look a wee bit different. But that's not really something that's going to be there in, like, I mean, it is something that is there in Warcraft with whatever way you like customize your character, but like there's no lore background to that. But also, if they were going to do a lore background for that, that is like kind of a bit of a minefield. And I don't think they particularly have the setup for all of that in their world just yet. It's all to say that I think this all comes from a recognition that it is a big fantasy world that actually people can sort of take seriously enough. And that because of that, hey, there could be more depth to some of these things.
Sure could.
Or, as ID2K says, just make them fat and drunk, and then they're Kulturans.
Perfect.
Kulturans. Yeah, where's the skinny Kulturans? Remember those that were data mined?
Yeah.
YouTube's just giving me the pop-up. Now would be a good time to insert ads, would it? No.
It's sort of in the middle of talking here now.
Yeah, YouTube. Could you maybe not there? And finally, from Dylan, I'm always curious about how the patch cadence will be upon the next expansion, because the trend, you have a good patch cadence, and then the next expansion's patch cadence suffers. And yeah, that is the point. Because like for all of the talking about the Legion patch cadence that we may do, VFA was slow, and then Shadowlands was slow. I think, though, there is a pretty major difference. Even in Legion, they were trying to pick up after their own mess with a whole bunch of their systems. They then had to do that for the next 2 expansions. So, those problems won't exist as much. And also, the team's probably like over double the size than it was for Legion.
Yeah.
Which is insane. But, hey, it is what it is.
Yep. Also, the orc armor doesn't look very good either.
Just kind of tricky. I'd love to say more about the orcs, but then we just end up talking about the Maghar, which of course aren't our Maghar. They are AU Maghar, but they do provide that fantasy, and it's all a bit awkward.
Yeah, it's awkward. It's awkward. I just think they big heavy plates on top of like not having the middle actually armored. It's like, well, you wouldn't wear very heavy things if you wanted to keep your midriff open. You would at least wear light armor, or at least have a load of plates that you could use to deflect things, not actual heavy armor. Make realistic armor. Come on, don't make realistic armor. Don't do that. Don't make it. No, realistic's bad. Don't do that. Make cool fantasy armor.
Caught yourself.
Yeah.
Joseph Pels, thank you for joining as a channel member.
Indeed.
Okay, let's talk about the rest of 1007. So, monks are going to be available to Goblin, Lightforged, and Worgen.
Hell yeah.
So that's coming, and it seems that they broadly just want to expand those things out as it makes sense. There's like a bit of animation work, I think, whenever they do add more options there. So it just does take time, but that's good. Then there's Returning to the Forbidden Reach, where we don't really know much. The zone includes new content for max level players, delving into the troubles left behind by the meddling of the Primalists and the chaos they've left behind among the elements. So new bosses, objectives, storms, and loot. But we don't know, other than the story that will take place here will lead us directly into the next patch, which we do believe is some sort of underground, big old thing.
Indeed.
So there you go. That's basically that patch. Well, it's a smaller one, but that's the way they're doing it. 2 smaller patches between every big patch, which I certainly like.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So for other things then, I think let's, we've already done one spicy potato, so let's just go into what's going on in the game this week. First up, right, Thundering. Basically, tanks will now always get the red debuff. So there's 3 red debuffs, 2 blue debuffs, which does mean that the tank, if they don't want to, they don't have to clear.
Yeah.
Because the others will clear their buffs, and then the tank will be left as the only person with the buff, and it'll just dissipate.
Yeah, and that mostly stops, I guess, the outlying situations where, especially in like Halls of Valor, where tank is going to be eating a lot of cleaves and stuff. If you have to, suddenly a DPS goes, oh, well, now if I want to play this correctly, I have to be super careful of tank mechanics as well, because I need to know that I shouldn't walk in front of a Mortal Hue when I've got 2 seconds left in my Thundering to clear this up. Oh, okay, well, to hell with that. So I think this is a pretty good change overall, even if it does trivialize Thundering a little bit more. Although I think I might be somewhat in the majority or in the minority, because I really like it. I like it, and I like being able to min-max a little bit with the competent players versus clearing it a little bit quicker. On pugs, I enjoy it, but this is just a literal good change.
So that's literal good. Now, Halls of Valor. Okay, back in Legion.
Been destroyed.
Back in Legion, 45-minute timer. In this expansion, 38-minute timer. Or is it 37? I think it's 38.
38.
Yeah. So, changes have happened. Right, let's get into them. Both mini-bosses before Hersha, 25% health reduction. Hersha's got a 10% health nerf as well, so good, especially for Tyrannical when she's pumping out those AoEs. And then, this is the big, thank God one, the 4 mini-bosses in Odin's Throne Room have had a 20% health reduction as well. But you can pick up a mug of mead, take it over there, then use it in one of the mini-bosses, drag the other mini-boss over to it, and then they'll fight each other. So that's pretty good. Scovald RP. Now it's 19 seconds faster. So that's really good. Then there's a 20% nerf to the periodic damage done by the runic brand from Odin.
Hang on a sec. I just want to, because obviously TJ fired that in there where he said, well, some players may feel like a bit of character has been removed. This is a timed M plus setting, so RP should never really get in the way. The RP is budgeted into the timer, one would assume.
Yes.
So it's not getting in the way. I can understand how it feels like it is. That's fine. But I think people don't realize it's a go, oh, well, we'd have cleared that if the RP wasn't there. Yeah, that's a valid feeling. But on the logical side, no, you wouldn't have, because if the RP wasn't there, they'd have added extra time to the timer.
Actually,
theoretically,
it's easier if the RP's there. And the timer.
And the timer's budgeted because you have more downtime.
Yeah, you have downtime to like heal, drink, etc. So, yeah, it's a funny little thing of you're literally incorrect, but
yeah, but
it's just that in this case they have decided to use this as a nerf to the dungeon because they've not rebalanced their timer to take this into account.
Yes, as a player experience thing, this is a good change.
Yeah. Then 20% nerf to the periodic damage of the runic brand, which is just because whenever people are
dodging
the orbs, trying to spread out to get their runes, healing can be hard. So yeah, there's that. Yeah. Now for not good offensive, the static spears, 30% AoE damage nerf, in addition to it not preferring to target the same person for subsequent casts, will basically just make the end of Balakar can feel significantly better. And then Ancestral Bond only applying whenever Tira and Maruk are 15 yards apart instead of 10 is also good. So, more targeted nerfs. If that doesn't seem like enough, I should say there are more, like Fenrir, 10% health. Down, if you look at the trash, there's more nerfs to the trash. We kind of just covered the major ones here. Fix for Algrathar.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that the bleed change on Fenrir is actually a full-on design change, in that it lasts 30 seconds instead of infinite, because the point was that was like a hard limiter on the fight. I don't know how often it casts. It might be fast 30 seconds, so it will ramp up a little bit, but it does have time to drop off and stuff, as opposed to it being a constant, sorry, you've got a hard limit in this fight, which is good.
Next then, right, this I didn't pick up on. This may actually just be dropping in hot.
No, it's not that hot.
Okay, right, so Mythic Plus score for depleted keys over plus 20 has been significantly nerfed. So previously, right, and this is me learning as well, because this is done by Dakor, who's our big cutting edge raider. He's got probably 100 million Primal Chaos in his bag at this stage. Yeah. But previously, the strategy for pushing a high score was to complete the highest keystone level you could possibly do for each dungeon within 40% over time. Because if you're more than 40% over time, you don't get score. So this would basically actually result in you gaining more score for depleting a 25 than timing a 24. And I suppose Blizzard just took the opinion that, this is just playing funky around the game mechanics. This isn't ideal.
The goal is to time it. There you go.
I mean, I could cut reading a bunch of blue posts by saying the goal's to time it there. Done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal. Now, there's another big XP nerf to the Cobalt Assembly. Where they just say...
This is anti-fun, in a way.
It is and it isn't.
Yeah.
Because you could very clearly tell that it wasn't an intended experience, considering the, small characters get destroyed. Get completely destroyed in there.
Yeah.
And that often you have to get a leveling group where you're the only person who's not max level, right? So you're kind of getting boosted by people. It's one of those things, I did an alt leveling video, and I did cover this method, but I said, look, try... The video ended where I basically said, because I highlighted Ace Versatile's 1 hour, 49 minute, 60 through 70 run. And I basically just said, look, sure you could do the Cobalt Assembly, but the speed run, not only is it faster, but it's also you learning something that will stick to you for the whole expansion, and you'll always be able to completely, nuke leveling, right, once you've learned how to level through the Isles well. So, I would say focus on that more than things like this. Generally, it's worth knowing like what is going to get nerfed, and then being able to make the decision. Right, do I do this now before it gets nerfed, or do I just try to focus on the evergreen thing? I can understand why Blizzard did this.
Yep, it's too fast.
It's not even speed. You can speed run faster than this.
Oh. I guess it's just they don't want people to do boosting like behavior, or I guess AFK playing. I think. Which is, I'm going to say that's entirely fair.
They didn't tone down Brackenhide, because there's similar stuff you could do in Brackenhide as well with the elites. Interesting. Well, if there is Brackenhide stuff to be nerfed, I have a feeling that they will be doing that.
Yep. Indeed.
Okay, right. Other things then. Well, the patch is out. For the TLDR, I think we can roll through this, but this is everything you need to know about the new patch in World of Warcraft. Right, number one, trading post next week. It's got its own piece of key art, which is kind of neat, and
a good ass trailer.
Exactly. Yeah, we were surprised. It was a good trailer for what this is.
They've got some good cinematic stuff going on here. It's very nice.
Yeah. So there you go.
It's also very clear in what you're supposed to do. It's very good.
Yep. It does a good job showing you, the bonus reward. In this case, we've learned that, it's amount that actually changes between day and night. So I think that's really cool. You'll get that for earning your 500 tendies, which is just by doing those activities. So Trading Post comes out the 1st of February, which is in just a few days. So great.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus, it is.
5 sparks. 5 sparks. It's time to get your 5th spark. Now, the quest does involve tuning the core, but what's fun though is there's a total of so the number one, it's like the tagging is very old school on it, so you need to get 5 of them, you would think, but actually you need 103 energy and they give 20 each, so you actually need to do 6. So I think that is some Khadgar style being funny with the numbers. Yes. But after that, then, you do get your Essence Detector, which just allows you to earn more sparks.
Yep.
Just by doing shit.
Very Legendary.
Yeah. Actually, here's the thing. Did Blizzard remove the crafted equip thing?
I don't think they did. It's just not visible.
I was fairly sure they removed that, but kept the embellished cap,
Maybe.
of course.
I couldn't tell you. I know I was talking about this recently with someone, and we're under the assumption that it was still 5.
Okay. Not sure, but I guess, look, you can get loads of sparks now, and what's really neat is, now, your alt has to have not started the quest. If your alt has not started the quest, you can skip the whole thing, get 5 sparks, and your Essence Detector in like 5 seconds.
Cool.
So,
but if you did one, if you got 1 spark or 2 sparks on your alts, haha.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Yep.
But I mean, hey, that's a good enough approach.
Indeed.
Big picture. Next, then, the Revival Catalyst is here. Right, TLDR. We've already talked about this before, but you get a quest from Stoneboy. Right, so get your quest from Stoneboy, and you will have to sort of fill a bar that's somewhere around here.
Lifeblood.
Get 20% for a rare, those like a rare elite world quests.
Yeah.
But the progress is actually account wide.
Yeah, so you can just do a couple of them each character.
Yeah, so you can actually clear this out in no time. And it does mean for many of us, we're going to be getting our 4-piece, or perhaps upgrading our normal 4-piece to a heroic item level, which is what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, if you're like me, you'll get a 385 tier, and then use your Revival Catalyst on a 411 piece that dropped from Vault the week before.
Bastard.
So you get a 26 armor level upgrade. Feels very good. Definitely should have been here earlier though, but still.
Oh man. Okay, next up then, white and grey transmog plus your holiday mogs all the year round, which is just overall good. Right. Yeah. So if you go in the trade and dwarven district to those old, I mean, come on, do you remember going to the Lionheart armory before you really understood how the game worked and you thought, oh, what a cool fantasy. I just made it to the city. I'm in the big smoke and I'm going to buy some gear. It's just kind of, what I was like back in the day.
No, because I started Horde, but yes.
Well, in your case, you'll be going to the Drag and the Valley of Strength. But yes, this just lets you pick up the old starter gear, which, nostalgia for many of us. Other cool items, though, are there. You get some nice little hand transmogs. from Fragrant Flowers, which is pretty neat. Your holiday transmogs, those are available all year round.
That's a very good change. I have a couple of sets that I like to mog occasionally, and I just can't because they're holiday restrictions. It is pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's a good change, and it came out of nowhere from seemingly no one being too bothered by it, and kicking up a fuss. Should we just let people do what they want? Hell yeah, why not?
Yeah. Next then, Primalist Future Event. So the, what's it called? Storm's Fury. I did this
Storm's Fury.
Did it just before the show. Basically, 4 portals spawn. You need to capture the portals.
Like PvP objectives?
And defend the portals, kill the Primalist mobs. You'll get some, like, Storm's Essence or whatever it's called, and elemental stuff, that you use for the storms. You get those off the mobs, then at the end, boss spawns, you kill the boss. There's also rares and stuff that can spawn during the event as well, that I think drop 385 or 389 gear, one of the two anyway. And that essentially is it. It's just kind of like a storm with a bit of a different twist. Turns out, though, loads of people do storms. As we found out when we, in our sort of maybe the criticisms, the things you could say Blizzard could do better in this expansion, we kind of thought, these storms, a bit curiously timed. No. Well, I mean, a lot of us would say yes, but at any rate, it does seem plenty of people... plenty of people like him. Plenty of people are doing him. So this is just more stuff for those people. I think what is mostly noteworthy, though, is that normally you're able to get a total of 8 storm sigils per week, per character, by doing each of the 4 elements for the normal primal storms. When you do this, you get a stormed primalist cache that contains 2 storm sigils, and then you can purchase the stormed primalist cache, the blue version, not the purple version, and I believe that contains a storm sigil. But essentially what it means is more storm sigils per week, which is going to be important if you want to gear yourself up in that item level 389 storm gear, which is notable because that storm gear can be put into the revival catalyst to turn it into tier gear, not only giving you the tier set bonus, but also giving you the visual appearance.
Yep, so you can earn tier without going into group content.
Yep, and in addition to that, you'll get the chronologically unstable loop, Bronze Band of Destinies, the Heat of Primal Winter, the Sands of Temporal Perfection. You'll get those. Now, doing my first one, I got 25 essences of the storm.
Yep.
So almost enough to purchase one of those. And of course, if you are somebody who already had a bunch of elemental overflow, because that's the storm currency, then, well, that won't be a problem for you.
You also get a couple hundred for doing the boss now.
Yeah.
300 or so.
So that's basically that. There is another change to go along with this. It doesn't actually change anything, really. Just the way that it used to work is you would take the eye level 359 blue storm gear, and you would turn in that plus a quantity of tokens into a vendor to get the epic version. Now, instead of that happening, it just happens at an upgrade vendor.
Yeah, the item upgrade. The item upgrade vendor now takes the additional currency of the thing to upgrade it. Same way with the Wormwood stuff. And same, it's just using the item instead of Valor, basically. Instead of having this weird give me the item, which will unequip your item and throw the other item in, they just use the upgrade system. Which I think is a little bit more feasible, though I do think they need an item upgrade vendor that isn't hidden in the back of the PvP place. Because I think that confuses a lot of people. I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, we got that. Now, other things. Got new things like our bag bar, micro menu, item durability, XP bar. Those are on edit mode now, which, is fine. That said, we need the dungeon icon. We need the minimap to be scalable. We need class power. Come on, we need our class power.
Well, those need texture updates and stuff as well.
That too. Yeah, they're really low res. Though remember, did people not data mine high res chi orbs?
Yeah, they mustn't be. They mustn't be finished and in yet. I've been level among, so I don't.
Oh, okay. And the vehicle frame. So there's that. Also, you need to re-register the nameplate show only names CVAR if you want to see just people's nameplates, not their health bar. So I mean,
they actually remove the CVAR, but you can still register it. Interesting.
Yeah, you register it, and then you can use advanced interface options.
Nice.
Maybe this is some sort of mistake, but anyway, it did happen. Of course, you can just do that in Plater as well. And basically, it's just some people like their nameplates to be like this.
Yeah.
For me, the right-hand side is fine if I'm in Holy, because I know where to put my Sanctify at a glance, which is nice. But anyway.
Yeah, also remember that nameplate add-ons don't function in like combat anyway. Like friendly ones, because you're not allowed to edit them because of what some very naughty people were doing. And if I remember correctly, it was Eternal Palace on Ashara.
Yes. Is it? Yeah, it still is like that.
The nameplate, yeah.
Yeah, for DF friendly nameplates, the add-on.
Yeah, so if it's
Yeah,
if,
surely it is.
if it does anything that edits it, it won't be visible in instance content.
Yeah.
If it uses CVARs and stuff, then that's fine. Anything that the game can do. So if it's like a shortcut for doing that, yeah. But if it's,
if that is the case, then
if it's doing like I imagine doing like class colors and stuff won't work.
Okay, well,
Unless there is an option for that, but yeah.
yeah, no, this says you can hide health bar, hide cast bar, disable heal prediction, color name by selection or color name with extended colors, color the health bar by selection, color the health bar with extended colors, use class colors for health bars, which I think is a big win.
Yeah, it says it works with forbidden nameplates. It's interesting.
Yeah, click through friendly nameplates and nameplate font settings. So, hey, that's a good add-on. Didn't know about that one.
That is actually a good one.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that. That's good.
Now, 12 months to become a warden.
Yeah, this is
whole year.
This is some frustrating expectation mismanagement.
It is.
It really is. Blizzard, you know better than this, honestly.
Yeah, they could have. I'm not against there being a, reward for completing the thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm not against there being a 12-month reward. I think that's okay. I think the problem is they tied it into something that they're giving you in month 1, which then makes it feel like they're holding it back because you can see it in front of you, in the game. But I suppose that's the thing. If World of Warcraft had no data mining, we wouldn't have this conversation.
Yeah, because we wouldn't know what this is, and it would be a lot better. I think the problem is that this is literally, like I said, expectation mismanagement.
Yeah.
And it's hard to blame Blizzard for what data miners do, but at the same time, the ultimate is it's the player experience of World of Warcraft. And they're the ones who ultimately are in charge of that. And it is unfortunate that other people can impact that, but it's still their imperative to make sure it doesn't happen. So the idea of, like Delicious Mystery says, back to the mobile game retention trap tactics again, huh? Yep. That's exactly what it feels like. You go, oh, that's one of the best sets you've ever put in the game. I'm so excited. Oh, I have to give you money every month and play your game every month to get it after a year? That's really crazy. And I think the comparison, let's get the comparison over with, is the, what are they called? The Violet Proto-Drake. The What a Long Strange Trip It's Been, which I didn't realize was actually a reference to a song name. But that's very different because that's for doing all of the holidays. And the holidays make sense that they're only available once they're up because they're holidays. It would make sense for it to be March and you'd be doing the Headless Horseman. That does make sense. So everyone accepts the Violet Proto-Drake for being that and go, okay, well, it takes a year to get this, right? Yeah, but you'll subbed anyway. Whatever, it's fine. It's during holidays and that's part of a meta achievement. So you get rewarded for each individual thing you're doing there anyway. And it just clearly makes sense. You go, oh, yep, sweet, wonderful, excellent. And it's also Violet Proto-Drake, which is a mount. And, there's loads of other mounts in this introduced. So like, yeah, sure, fine, this is another mount. Grand. I'm happy to earn it. This is completely arbitrary. This is just give us money for 12 months and then we'll give you this.
So,
and it's not just that because you have to do the trading post every month.
Yeah, that's the thing. Loads of people were tweeting me that this was a login thing. There was basically a 12-month login reward, which it is not.
Yeah.
It's strange because, like, I don't... Like, it's... What this is a monthly event. I think we can all agree it's that. It's a monthly event.
Yeah.
So, let's say in the next patch they added in a bunch of time walking things, and if you had done all of the time walking meta achievement, you get a mount.
Yeah.
Now, how do people feel about that? Because time walking only appears so often on the in-game calendar. Would people think, oh, cool, they're refreshing time walking. That's really nice. And, oh, look, they've put a big evergreen reward for, totally mastering the time walking content in the game over, maybe it would take like 8 months or something like that. If they did that, how different would it be to this fundamentally? Because it still kind of is arbitrary because they just, they decide to do whatever they want. So what is it? Is it the amount of time? Is the problem that you get 500 tender a month? Not that gets you this, just by logging in. Like, what is the issue?
I think the problem is that if it's framed as a nice little bonus of, hey, here's the thing you might kind of want, that's fine. But when it's a thing people very much want, they would rather have a path to acquisition that's quick. Maybe that's quick at a cost of a lot of effort, but it's at least a path to actual acquisition. So I think the arbitrariness is, they're allowed to do that. It's part of the toolkit of them doing whatever they want. Yeah, that's fine. But not whenever it's things you really badly want. Ultimately, I think it's
the Violet Proto Drake is a bit kooky.
Yeah, it's just that's right. I kind of want that.
Yeah.
Not I want this now. It's putting something at the end of a very, very long track.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose that's it. They're dangling the carrot too far away. Players don't feel like they can earn the carrot by just logging in and playing now. And I guess that's why it feels bad.
Which does mean this is a reward for next year when the game doesn't feel rewarding enough in certain capacities. Obviously, the game feels rewarding enough for a lot of people. It's just that it's the Overwatch 2 problem, where the entire modality, the entire reason people play World of Warcraft is to earn rewards. And now World of Warcraft are saying, oh, here's a reward that will spark. Oh, your neurons are going to fire like crazy when you get this.
Oh, you're going to spark joy everywhere.
But that's going to take 12 months. And I think that's... Because you could imagine the same happening in Overwatch, right?
Yeah.
Where they say, if you play one match or like 5 matches a month, every month, then after a year, we'll give you this brand new beautiful skin. And everyone goes, but we don't have enough skins now. We want the skins now, not you to arbitrarily put it a year later. And I think it's a combination of the arbitrary reward not feeling very good, people being smart enough now, because we talk about this all the time.
That is so much the problem. Not the problem.
Yeah.
That is so much of what's going on.
Yeah, we talk about that as part of the news channel quite a bit. And
gamers are smart.
We're very smart now at going, yeah, we know how you do things. We know how you make us want to play the game, and we don't like it. There's parts where we go, this is enough engagement, but we're enjoying it. We'll take it. And it is a contract of like people are happy on both sides, and that's fine. That's how it always has to be. But in cases like this, it is them going, hey, play the game every month for 12 months, and everyone's going, you're trying to coerce us to do this. We know you're doing that. We don't like that.
We're too
we don't
smart.
like being coerced. We don't like feeling like we're not in control of our actions. You're taking control of our actions away from us by putting the carrot at the end of a very, 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 very long and pointless stick. So people are going to be nice.
It's like so people were smart like 50 years ago. But 50 years ago, people would say, 8 out of 10 doctors smoke camels for that amazing menthol finish.
Yeah.
And people were like,
Hi.
Camels. Now that is the cigarette of doctors.
God, a camel's a good smoke, like.
There you go.
I tell you.
So, that, like 50 years ago. And 50 years ago, people weren't dumb.
Yeah.
People
are never
I
dumb.
am sure you had your bloody Von Brauns. I don't know if Carl Sagan smoked, but Carl Sagan tier people definitely smoked. Even though they're like smart ass motherfuckers back then. But that's the thing now, like gamers, like the equivalent of saying doctors smoke camels. A game company doing their equivalent of that will not work because we as a community are so armed with defenses. I guess because and I'm not really sure what the right way to put this is, but the way, like, imagine when you're in more of a blue ocean opportunity, right? Which just means there's land for the taking, everyone's happy, and everything's great. You're in some weird place where, a video game isn't as expensive to make. You make your video game, people buy the video game, everyone's really happy. But then what happens? Oh shit, the industry, it's no longer a blue ocean, blue sky, blue whatever the fucking business terms. It's no longer that situation, right? Because there's 500,000 companies and everyone's asking for our time. So now instead of just like taking new ground, making a new product, we are used to instead them trying to make money via the squeezing us a little bit more. And I suppose that's the thing. We've all just become so psychologically aware of all the bullshit that is potentially possible that we manage to simultaneously avoid all of it, or try to avoid all of it whenever it's people trying to take money out of our pockets. And then also when it comes to maybe applying some of those principles to do things that are sensible for us, we also avoid it and just eat junk food in the here and now.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I need a 12-month good boy reward in real life.
Yeah.
but I suppose that's it, right? We just notice shit so much more. I guess, no, I wouldn't say push. I wouldn't say to push back. I think at least versus Overwatch, we're in a better situation.
Hell yeah, they're doing so much better. So much better.
I mean, oh man,
But to be fair, that's
Overwatch.
because we're also used to them charging what is an obscene amount of money for a monthly sub for a game in a world where everything valuable is free to play and competitors charge substantially less. And also having a full price store on top of that for cosmetics.
Oh, and WoW token.
And World of Warcraft, which is honestly, like, WoW is one of the most heavily monetized MMOs there is. Asterisk before Lost Ark and Gacha.
So that's the thing.
Those are bullshit. But yeah.
What a lot of us want from a good MMO is a quality.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of funny because we were talking about stuff anyway, just related to like media training and interviews. And one of the things like we kind of I won't say realized, but something we noticed. Like classism is like a thing in America, but America seems to be like really a bit more divided, like almost amongst those like racial and political lines. Whereas, and that absolutely exists in the UK.
Definitely.
But it seems like the divide between the classes is almost more of a thing here. And I guess one of the things that we always liked about MMORPGs is, it didn't matter who you were, where you came from. Big asterisks. This sub's really expensive in some countries. But like you log into the game and that's it. It's it is a classless society in a way. It's obviously not because you got the mythic raiders and the not mythic raiders and all that, sure.
Yeah, but that's not.
But that's like what you're doing
class.
in the world.
Yeah.
And I guess when you think about World of Warcraft, like anything that erodes that makes it feel worse. And that's why WoW token feels like not great, because like in a way the contract's been broken. The time of a rich person in World of Warcraft, the time of a less rich person in World of Warcraft, like they were both, they equal to the exact same thing, fundamentally. Whereas, now a very wealthy person can, absolutely drop a bunch of change, get all the best BOEs. Now, in fairness to Blizzard, Mythic BOEs are only active now. Yeah. Mythic BOEs were disabled specifically to avoid this kind of situation when it mattered most. But I guess when it comes to the monetization, that's really the thing. And I guess that's why, on the on the hierarchy of suck, I think this is at the bottom of the hierarchy of suck. So it still is on the hierarchy of suck. But above this then, on the hierarchy of suck, is the 6-month mount. Because at least everyone gets that for subscribing.
Yeah.
And above that on the hierarchy of suck is like WoW token. And above that on the hierarchy of suck is just a plain store mount that you can't buy, or that doesn't come with your sub. Yeah. And I guess that's the way that I almost try to think about it, almost from this like kind of class perspective of like, the purity of everyone being the same in game. I mean, or maybe I'm just way overthinking it, putting way too much IRL.
I mean, that's generally true of it all. I think some of that's eroded over time. I think people just understand that now, because the internet's gone wrong and the world's gone wrong. I think people are just kind of like, yeah, you no longer log on and become a different person.
Yeah, I think
that's one of the things people largely
nip off for a second, but it's okay because I'm going to leave you with Taurens.
Yeah. Before that, I was just going to say the final part of this overall, I think, is that the armor people just really want it. It's a Warden.
Looks cool.
It's a Warden, and also it's a Sun Warden and a Moon Warden. Does that mean Night Elf Paladins? Holy shit.
Actually, that is the thing then. Maybe the final point that I think we could agree on. Oh, never mind. Dakor already thought about it. Oh my god, it's almost like we employ him because he's smart. Heritage armor. These almost feel like a heritage armor because they're an in-game faction. I suppose when I'm thinking about something like this, I would rather we go towards non-faction, non-heritage armor feeling things. Yep. But anyway, Matt, I shall leave you to the Tauren.
Sweet.
Tell you what, there's a lot of Anshe Musha stuff to talk about.
There is
beyond this.
There is, and I definitely have it all in my head, definitely, and I can talk off the cuff about all the Anshe and Musha stuff, and I haven't forgotten all of it because Jared was writing those videos back in Shadowlands times. Fantastic. Anyway, we're actually got to disagree. This is a 12-month sub and MEU farm for Blizzard. Darksfall. Kind of, yeah, a little bit. That's the hateful part. Ultimately, it is a little bit just. Why did you do this? So people stay subbed. There you go. So that's, I think, why people are actually annoyed. More or less. More than anything else. But to talk about the Tauren version, this is actually a good point. So, Ashadar, the Harbinger of Dawn, Kaldorei legends whisper of a relentless hunter, prowling amongst the deepest shadows of Kalimdor, never sleeping. By the light of the sun or the moon, Ashadar now hunts with you. And yeah, it's related to Anshe, right? It's related to the sun, but it is just that. It's just that Night Elf Warden set. And then we have someone who actually made, I can't scroll down any further. So you'll have to wait, but there is a version of this, which is a fan-drawn, I should say, not fully rendered, but it's a fan-drawn version of a Sun Kodo, Anyi, Herald of the First Light. I think that's interesting because I love... I first played this game as a Tauren. I initially... I account shared for one evening when I played it for the first time at my friend's house. And I played a little bit of a shaman because he played a Tauren shaman. I played Orc shaman because I did the Orc intro. But then when I got the game for myself, I can't remember what age it was, but it was very young. I played a Tauren shaman. So I did. And I've always, and I loved the Tauren in Warcraft 3 because I played Warcraft 3 long before playing World of Warcraft, and I really, really enjoyed the Tauren. I loved Cairn. I loved that story of them being there. I liked how they looked. I liked how everything was. I wasn't a big fan of the Orcs overall, but I really enjoyed that. And like I remember going into the Druid tent and reading like the stuff about I can't remember specifically what it was, but whatever the scrolls that were hanging up that were little bits of like Tauren lore about their mythology, and I've been obsessed with it ever since. So the idea that they're bringing out these like Sun Warden set and the Moon Warden set, and they're starting to move a little bit closer. Same with Ashadar here, it's very much Sun, Moon, and then we think about this I guess broadly, and they're moving into the sense of Void for Moon and Light for Sun, and how they're different, how they're fundamentally connected. You talk about Anshe and Musha and the story there of how, you know, is the eyes of the Earth Mother ripped out of her, and how there seemed to have been a little bit of stuff leaning into that in Shadowlands towards the end, a little bit of narrative leading us in that direction, and now they're doing it again. So they're coming further on. Shuhalo appreciate 100%. Yeah, the Tauren are fantastic. I love the Night Elves too for that reason. But it is annoying that it is it's very Night Elf focused. The Taurens feel like they never get anything, and when they do get something, it's something negative, a little bit like Kurog Grim Totem as an example showing up. It is a little bit frustrating that the Tauren are so cool, and obviously I think their heritage, right? Their heritage is being the Native American, just here they are. Although I'm sure at that time in the development team, they were just talking about, so, the Indians, because that's kind of rightfully fallen out of use, Red Indians. But it is just frustrating that Tauren don't get anything cool, and this is all just Night Elf washing the entire history. That said, I think I would relatively trust Blizzard to do them a little bit well if they bring us into this realm where they're talking about the sun, they're talking about the moon. I think this will absolutely be the best. Though I still hold to the opinion that I displayed in Shadowlands whenever they showed Elune and we heard her for the first time. I was very displeased, and I'm still very displeased, and they're going to absolutely ruin any concept of story of Elune because I don't trust them to do it. I don't trust them to do justice to the... What age would I have been? I must have been somewhere maybe 13, maybe 14. I think I'd have been 13 when I was playing. I read those lore scrolls in the Druid Tent. They will not do Anshe and Musha and Elune justice in the way that a young teenage me would expect or want. So,
well, like as a slice of life anime.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that sense of mythology, that sense of grandeur, they won't be able to keep it, and I'm inherently terrified. Matt can be such a negative Nancy.
Yeah, bastard.
So, yeah, Turner, I can be. I'm not going to not be if I feel it. Obviously, I can be negative. Obviously, I can be, as people may have not known before Dragonflight came out, I can be profoundly positive and very much enjoy doing it.
Yeah, it really must have been a shock to
but
people.
there is just it's the same. Oh no, I'll tell exactly what it is. And I described this to Jared earlier this week talking about it. It was I had a realization, and I've always thought of, I'm going to use Asmongold as the example because he's the I think the poster boy for these people who have this vision of World of Warcraft in their head that exists solely in the past, and it's a game that exists in the past. It's also their lifestyle that existed in the past, and they put that on a pedestal and they want it back. And there's nothing else with that, even though it's completely unrealistic and outright impossible. I realized this week that I do the same, but with a future version of it.
Whoa!
Shit. What was the... Oh my god, I can never remember his name. I'll try to search it now. But it is this future version of World of Warcraft that is absolutely idyllic, that I think about a lot, and I kind of conjure what would be the best thing they could do, what's the best thing they could do. And we're beasts of comparison. And when you have the vision of perfection so clearly in your head, anything that comes short of that, you have to be very careful to temper, understanding the comparisons coming from there. So that's more or less, that's why I'm negative a lot of the time, or sound like I'm going, well, it could be better. It's because I sit and think about what could make it perfect.
We're also a country full of utter cunts.
That is also true, and I'm very happy to be like, yeah, no, I am an asshole. I am an asshole. I communicate like an asshole. I'm not a bad person, but my communication is definitely that of an asshole. 100%.
So it's one of the things that I always think, well, it's something like even in a lot of Japanese media people really like. It's like the degree of sincerity. And sometimes I have to like pinch myself and say, oh, no, wait, you can't say that. In other parts of the world, they actually have an expectation that you believe what you say.
Oh, yeah.
You know that thing of like... what we say may not necessarily be our full opinion on like something, right? We're just talking about like the bit that interests us or whatever, or even like some things with like humor and sarcasm and all of that.
Yeah, we definitely have this thing where it's worth keeping in mind that realistically, your thoughts and your words become your actions and become you.
Oh yes.
But that is not a 100%. That is it is like a flow of. It depends. It's an average. It's a rolling average. So
there's a lot of people that go on to poll.
Yep.
And they do some shit posting and poll, and then they leave and they lead a normal life. Yep. Then there are people who go to poll, shit post and poll, and something entirely different happens.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there's an entire internal universe in my head that people don't see. And that's why like anything external looks like if I thought the way I spoke, and if I thought about everything the way I think about World of Warcraft, I would be a miserable, hateful bastard. But I'm not.
You just walk into Tesco and you criticize the meal deal.
Yeah.
You're like, Tesco, This is so because you're going to think about how you can get the the protein bar that has a higher RRP and min max your thing or whatever. Or I suppose that's it. The degree of scruples that we apply to World of Warcraft compared to just about anything else in our real lives is so inordinate. Yeah,
I remember the comparison I wanted to make. It's Pygmalion. I've always really enjoyed the story of Pygmalion. That's a man who, he through consummate skill, created a statue of woman and fell in love with it.
Oh.
Because it was so perfect. And because the statue was so perfect, no other woman could compare. I think that's very much, people who have, you think about how things could be better.
Was the statue called Stacy?
I don't think so. But I think people who can go that way or can think about what would if this was better, how could this be better, and people who constantly think that way have to be concerned or people worried about becoming a little bit like Pygmalion nature. Yeah. It's to have expectations, especially very clear expectations that are so impossible to reach.
Suddenly, no woman can compare to your restored 911 Carrera.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some people, they do the thing with the car.
Yeah. Yeah. Modern day body pillow Cobra. You know what? There's certainly aspects of that may be kind of people may be cottoning on to that.
Pygmalion's very normal now. There's in fact a humongous business around him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic.
Exactly.
Should say here's Anyi, Herald of the First Light.
Yeah, you get to see it now.
Which doesn't exist, but it is a nice concept for a big glowy Kodo for the Sunwalkers, which would be really nice.
Indeed.
So thank you to Kudjin over on Twitter. Things. Whoa! Look at this, it's like comic book, Steve.
Yep.
Pam, bow, kapow.
Yep.
And here we are. Let's talk about Hiru Stevu. I can't do it.
Hiru and Stevu, yes.
Yes, I'm trying to like merge their name into the intonation, and I'm failing. But it is a lore interview. Yes, a lore interview with Steve Denuser, the lore man. The lore man. There's plenty of lore people over at Blizzard. That team's growing and growing.
Oh, you made the questions this interview felt like.
Well,
hell yeah, those questions are sick. I was literally going, man, those questions are really well put together. Good man. Or good. I said, man, good, whoever you were.
Yeah, it was a good interview.
Yep.
Good interview. Good questions. Steve does an interview well. Now, the World of Warcraft team may not deliver on the promise of Ner'zhul in patch 9.1.
Oh, dear.
But yeah. Oh dear. But hey, game development is a literal nightmare hellscape as Forspoken and all of the Luminous Productions.
Yeah, just about as anyone who's played Forspoken knows, don't buy Forspoken. Don't do what I did.
He bought Forspoken. He bought Forspoken knowing how things were going to be.
If there is a certain level of psychological masochism that one must have to play Square Enix games and enjoy them. I possess that in fucking droves.
Yeah, well, I think that just means you fucking depleted your big key for a long time.
Yeah, it's fine.
Pray tell, what was J-Lore talking about when he said, "But wait, what about what is to come?" Oh.
Yeah, what is to come? The new villain.
To come.
Yeah, what is to come? Yeah, it's as John said, John said, it's WOTIS. That's the first name. Space TUCUM. To come. What is to come? The new boss.
Damn.
The new villain for World of Warcraft. Yeah. What is to come?
To come.
Yeah.
I'm almost thinking of that like a rapper name. You know.
Yeah.
That's it. Little to come. So.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, nope.
Go back.
Reverse.
Yep.
Reverse.
Fucking get time shift and revert that.
Okay.
No, Stormu, go back. Crowy, help.
Connell, if you're clipping, clip starts now.
He flies around it.
Well, Matt, what was the jailer talking about when he was talking about what is to come?
You know, Connell, I don't think the clip works if you just burst out laughing after saying come. Oh, dear. Anyway.
Come.
Yeah, so he was talking about a thing that other people have talked about.
Yes.
It wasn't just a jailer going, this is something that I've just thought of right now at this very moment in the recording booth doing my voiceover lines. It was very much actually something they've been leading into with Zoth, talking about largely the same kind of videos and like wanting to bring us together, not just like, oh, I'm going to kill you, but together we can build a black empire stronger. He didn't say that, but imagine he did. That might make sense.
Together
but,
we can break those chains of love.
Yeah, but then Alpharim and Caesar, the Oracle, were talking largely about the same thing of, there's something else going on.
Yes.
There's very much lots of ways of explained. Lots of things are happening going on. He then said that the threat will surface again next when it makes sense, which isn't right now in Dragonflight because it's a story about dragons and stuff. So if we see anything, it'll be vaguely thematic, but it won't be anything actually happening.
See, one comes pretty recently, so for 2 come they've got to recharge.
There's a refractory period on that.
I'm very sorry. John, you've ruined this entire segment of our stream, you bastard.
No, you have by laughing.
Yes, I've also ruined it by laughing.
Yeah, so another thing that was asked then was, is this a Void Lord? Like, not obviously, like, seriously, but like, is it, related? And it is no. They haven't explored that relationship in any capacity just yet of Old Gods and Void Lords. They're going to be doing that at some point. But it is very much like, the Void Lords and Old Gods, they're not the same as the Titans, not the same as the Light. They aren't rigid, they don't have a hierarchy. It's not like the Old Gods report to the Void Lords and the Void Lords report to the Voidest ones or whatever else. It is just, the Void is adaptive, as is life, as he says. And then Void can disagree and change things up, so they're able to make interesting decisions on the fly and stuff like that. And then, Godon says, Void will be explored in the future. Yeah. He didn't quite say that, but the way you say something without saying it, literally, that's one more that's happened. Going Void is going to be a big thing we do in the future.
I suppose I would then, if I was here to do a follow-up with Steve, I would say, okay, but what
is Tukov?
What did Morazon see?
Yeah.
Right, in End Time, right? It's pretty heavily implicated that he sees something really bad, so he decides to go Team Tentacle.
I'm assuming that wasn't mentioned by Steve very much as an intentionality, because I think they may have dropped that to a degree. They've either dropped this degree or they will continue to use that very literally.
Well, he did talk about Nosdormu and infinite stuff in this expansion, so it would be giving it up too much to say that.
Yeah, and there's 2 questions at this point where the first thing he said was that would be too spoilery to talk about in depth, and then went around the spoilery bits to talk, which the next one, which was, will we see more alternate Azeroth timelines? He's like, well, that's a bit spoilery. But then ultimately said, there's Bronze, there's Infinites, there's storylines planned there. Stuff like the Asmerloth was more or less something that a quest designer thought would be cool and went ahead and like led and implemented and stuff. So that was like that. But the TLDR
worlds theory from.
Yeah, the TLDR I took from it was that part of the storyline ahead is inevitability versus possibility, which is the Bronze Titan Light look is the one true timeline. Obviously the Titan timeline and Light timeline, the Amonfil timeline that he showed in his Stormer and wanted to protect may not be the same as the Light, but it's the same fundament of, here's a straight line. There is one line, we go down this. The Light may have one that's like here, but we go down this one. Whereas the Void are like, yeah, bro, check it go down. Obviously the Infinite, lean into that as well.
That's how the Void talks.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Yeah. The Infinite are very much that same of, it's two sides of the same coin of the Infinite and the Bronze. And then even like, here went on to say it, but the Infinite seem more negotiable now. Are you all right over there?
No, just Anthony got me.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Oh dear.
That's actually just... Anyway.
Yes.
So here then
back at the analyst's desk.
Here then talked about the Infinite seemed more negotiable and a little bit more defined than before.
Yeah, better with the Turnus.
When they were just, we're the big thing, we're doing stuff for some reason.
They felt like Skeletor's minions. Now they feel like they're doing stuff.
Yeah, and then they talk about how like the past stuff is hard to figure out what their goal was. They have an objective. At some point in this expansion, they may be closer to realizing it, but they aren't a monolithic entity. They're not just, hey, we're all one big blob going on one big goal. There is possibility inherent to them. The Infinite means the Infinite time weighs the infinite outcomes. That's kind of what the way they take their name. So I think, to me, that's all of the talk that we had before about the infinite and bronze being two sides of the one coin, and them ultimately being like a part of patch content to go, well, we need to reconcile the infinite and the bronze as like one whole kind of yin and yang of this one Dragonflight that is in charge of time. And then obviously that being Chromie and Eternus ultimately stop Murazond or helping him accept Murazond for some purpose is ultimately what seems to be happening there. None of that was said, but it all would, like, listening through the way he was describing it in my head, I was like, yep. That means that, like, he generally confirming our theories on this stuff, not necessarily on the outcome, but on how things are going to go, is what I read into that heavily. And then they went off a little bit of a different question about, will they continue the singular, no faction split storytelling? Because obviously, or no faction split storytelling, as in you just do it all one character over. And more or less said it was a question of resources, which is to say it's cool to tell small split stories. They really liked doing that in Legion. That was great. Definitely was. All those class order rolls. But at least for Dragonflight, and I think generally they want to make sure players can get the whole pie without having to level a bunch of alts or like revisit stuff or do anything kind of weird. They just want you to log in, one character, have the whole story. If they do it again, it will be a conscious choice, and it'll be largely a question of resources of, is there enough for one player to get half of the pie and feel happy with what they've got? And then if they want, they can do that half. Versus,
I think ultimately what happened there is Legion had a very, number one, plenty of work. I think it had more time being worked on than your typical expansion.
Yeah.
But also I think a lot of those stories were class stories.
Yeah.
They weren't as vital. Rogues. Rogues is pretty friggin' key. But they were kind of preparing to fight, solving little mysteries, things that resided, that were important to the plot, yes, but resided around the plot. And I think where they then ran into some issues later is the plot just started to become more sort of fragmented. You'd almost feel like you kind of needed to have a Horde and an Alliance character to get everything.
Yeah,
and I think it as well. It is a point of resources, but clearly a lot went up shit creek in those two expansions, far more profoundly than anything went astray in Legion. And I have to imagine that had an impact on content.
Yep,
Next time we got Crexus.
This was a really good question. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
It was more or less, right? So that were there larger stories for Crexus, right? And this is something we talked about a little bit as well, where there's clearly stuff didn't go to plan in Shadowlands. There's clearly cut content all over the place. And this one was very much, was Crexus supposed to be...
I've even heard from staff of a different end villain.
Yeah. So
put it that way.
Yeah, was Crexus... was there scrapped stuff in that story, or was there misdirection involved? Was it supposed to be, hey, here's something that might be happening? Oh no, and they're dead, and things happen. And fundamentally, Stephen, obviously, you could say, well, he doesn't have to tell the truth. He's not, he's not under oath here. He can obviously lie, but he says if you take it in good faith, it was intended to be neither. The reason Crexus is in the loading screen and features heavily in marketing stuff is because they more or less had a choice. Do we just kind of spoil the whole thing with the Primus being back and throw up the Primus's appearance and stuff and do all that? Or do they put someone who's a little bit more obviously what Maldraxxus is kind of showing off to be in marketing and how we're kind of showing Maldraxxus a lot of ways, and put another rep there? And they ultimately said, yeah, so we'll put Maldraxxus, we'll put Margrave Crexus there, and that'll be the rep. And also it looks very Maldraxxus, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't look like old Weasley. Obviously, the Primus did a good job of looking like a strategist necromancer, but it's very much military might. Military might. Crexus definitely was military might. Yeah. So very much was the way. So they did that, and then when on death, the point was that Crexus was like that part of Maldraxxus that wasn't exactly the Primus's strategy, but the more military discipline kind of part. And then when Crexus dies, then Draka and Coke can pick up that torch and exist as those characters going forward. And that was very intentional. And then Hiru said, that's more thought than they'd imagined going in. And then Steve basically said, they spend a lot more time with characters behind the scenes and working on them and thinking about them before they ever go into actual materials, before they actually make it into the game. And that's something I think we said a lot during Shadowlands, was a lot of these ideas if you operate in the purest form of good faith and you go, okay, if these developers had more time, what do you think we would do with them? What do you think they would do with them? Can you I guess, complete a story that's more full instead of this one that doesn't feel full? And a lot of that was, these are good ideas. These are incomplete ideas. These are good ideas. These are incomplete execution or executed badly for a variety of reasons. In the writer's room, they clearly had a lot more fun. They clearly had a lot more, kind of stuff planned. Clearly a lot more, maybe not like solid beats planned, but they had ideas and they get to talk about what themes are going on and what everything's like. Why would this? Oh, because, the players will feel this and it means this and here's how it is in stories and stuff. But we don't get to see all of it. And that's the problem, where in Shadowlands they clearly hit that worse than ever before. Where maybe they wrote for themselves in a little bit of a way. Maybe it was just COVID production and lack of team size and lack of team capabilities at the time really did them in dirty. But generally it is a reminder that the writers have a lot more time with their characters than we do. Yeah. Hopefully they need to remember that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's also, it is especially hard for the game that they're making. I think about, the process here with Pale. We haven't cut a main character. We haven't... yes, things have shifted and changed, but a very substantial proportion of the writer's vision for every character makes it into the Pale Beyond, right? With as well, plenty of pieces of characters being found along the way as the game is made. Because it's a game with a tight scope, right? It knows exactly what it's got to do. But then, if you're trying to do that in an MMO, where it's an MMO, so that has inherent problems. It's a massive game worked on by hundreds of people, so sometimes a feature just may not fit, and then that changes a bunch of your plans, and maybe you have that all narratively tied in. That's the other side. Game development is a nightmare. Trying to tell a story in a humongous project is also a total nightmare.
Yep.
And I guess it's why across so many games that are big live services, you see their stories being told via transmedia, via little, cinematics at the start of the Battle Royale season, stuff like that, right? Which is totally not how World of Warcraft works. Yep. Which, not an excuse, it's just to say, yeah, it's hard.
Indeed.
It's hard. Because you can't just say, yeah, just do it perfect, though. Because shit happens.
Yeah.
And I expect in a game like World of Warcraft, shit happens probably to a shocking degree.
I imagine it's just a constant flurry. I imagine they just have a fan hooked up and there's just a sewage pipe connected to it. And that's just how they live. But they've got antibacterial umbrellas and that's just how they sit at their desk. Oh, I feel like that's a little bit how it feels. It's just consistently awful. But I think it's good that at least they're that question was good for us to get a little bit of a glimpse into them going, oh yeah, being aware of that, I think, as opposed to Steve turning and going, what? Craxus? Who's that again? Oh yeah, that guy. No idea. No idea, don't remember anything. Because that would have been really bad. But this is very much just, oh no, actually you're aware of the issues. You know the stuff you make that's not going in. So you just need to be better about the selection of that and make sure to not to plan too much that doesn't get in there. Or at least if you're going to plan extra stuff, make sure you can use it later. I imagine they seem to be doing a lot of the Void and stuff like that. Then to move on slightly, it's the next thing is more or less just Andrastras was a red dragon sleeping in a cavern in Sylphus. They had in Benaria. And then Dave was like, I don't know.
He's just having a sleep.
I don't know who that is. Obviously aware of it. But it's just no, we had no plans for that. That was no, if it was just a reference to people, because the people were pointing out as I think it was the name of someone's children or something that maybe was a possibility in the dev team. But the devs had long since left. They're we have no idea what's in there. That said, if we think of any ideas, and he specifically said even if some of the quest designers or watch this interview and think they had an idea for it, then we might do something in future. But
can we just not use that as an example of game development at scale?
Yeah.
Right? We think about all this stuff and for us, how many people are in the company now?
Well, I couldn't tell you. It's too big a number.
It's getting close to 20.
Yeah.
God, that's terrifying. Yeah. I mean, we were able to have an entire banquet table at the Christmas party, but it still is a level of flatness that, like, if someone wants to reach me, they just go and reach me, or Thomas, or you know, anything can reach anybody, right? It's like small and pretty flat. Whereas with this, it's like your average quest designer. It's going to be like, oh, when do we next hear from the Steve? We finally. We have blessed words from the Steve.
Stone tablet has made its way from Lead Mountain.
Okay, that's an exaggeration. But, like, there's a lot of quest designers in a game like WoW. And yeah, they'll obviously be spending time with Steve. But it's even just the idea of, like, sure, like, he's the maybe key decision maker for something. But how many, like, people are working, you know, like, on stuff that technically he's in charge of because it's narrative?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting.
Quest designers.
It just makes you. It makes you just realize the scale again.
Yeah, quest designers not being narrative as far as the team goes.
People working on WoW at least.
Yeah,
It's a lot of people. It's approaching. I guess that's like approaching Ubisoft tiers.
It's stupid. It's stupid.
You know, it does actually bode pretty well for the future, doesn't it?
If they can handle that regularly and they can afford it, and Blizzard doesn't come in and go, where's all the money you promised us for giving you 700 devs? That hasn't materialized. There are long-term issues that could crop up, but as long as they've budgeted that and it actually makes sense, because World of Warcraft's somehow still making crazy stupid levels of money, or it's like a bet that they have to like train people up and get them familiar with Warcraft and then move on to other Warcraft adjacent projects, like obviously John Hight's general manager of the Warcraft franchise, and there's not really much, so there's maybe other plans they have for those developers. But I think it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's maybe a dangerous amount.
Well, from what I understand, there are points at which an expansion such as this would have been seen as a pretty stupid, you know, not worth the opportunity cost of those people working on a new IP or a different game. Mm-hmm. But I think there has been a profound realization that even though WoW has been going through its ups and its downs, it has perhaps provided that company with a baseline of success that has saved its ass every single year. Mm-hmm. And maybe they've had that realization that no, actually, instead of hedging their bets on World of Warcraft's decline by expanding into other things, they need to double down on World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Which, hey, look at Activision. Mm-hmm. That's what they did with Call of Duty, and it's a big franchise. They doubled down. Sometimes you need to know when to double down and when to hedge your bets. Mm-hmm. If you got a cash cow like World of Warcraft, you got to feed that sucker.
Indeed.
Reno and Rafam.
Yeah, this one was cool because it's just a question about the Reno and Rafam, because there's data mining stuff with them. And like, well, where are they? What's the crack there? And Steve took it as a fantastic opportunity to talk about how they view Hearthstone in the World of Warcraft world and canon. And ultimately it was, Hearthstone is not canon. They are happy to make references, but they have to be crystal clear that those references do not carry any weight beyond the reference itself. So Reno and Rafam showing up, if Reno, for an example, isn't a dragon in World of Warcraft, that they're allowed to do that. Just because he's there doesn't mean that everything that happened involving Reno is canon. Same
Jane
with Rafam.
is not a Dreadlord because she has a Dreadlord skin.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the idea of references. Well, don't carry all the canon. Dragonflight did not in any way intend to bring Reno and Rafam, and the Galakron connection is, because that was what the question was leaning into. And ultimately it was just, we're careful about that. Hearthstone's not canon. And it won't be unless we want to bring specific elements in. And when we do, we'll be clear about them, because otherwise that's a big kettle of fish. And it's like people will be able to draw like even tiny connections about stuff that's not canon anymore. And I thought that was a really good question. It was answered very well. They clearly did a lot of thinking about it and how to even communicate it. And I thought that was pretty impressive. But then the next one, oh boy.
Eye of N'Zoth.
Yep.
Yeah, so nothing particularly planned about the Eye. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we think back to that period, a lot of circumstances, but N'Zoth's lines are super deliberate. They are written by Steve to set things up specifically.
Yep.
In general, some are deliberate, others are misdirections. N'Zoth was very clever. If he got some possibilities tipped to him via our messing around with time, it's interesting to think about that and what it could mean.
Yeah.
Watch our video about the time bullshit.
Yep. So,
So it's good to know that matters. But he says, well, he doesn't say if it's a we already changed the past or if it will be there are new outcomes because of what we did. But he did say that it's worth examining what N'Zoth and his minions / allies have said and done.
yes. So that leads me to believe that it was, and I should say the lines we say about that he wrote are the ones in the Black Empire
Yes.
time bit. Those ones where it's, oh, I know you, etc. And I think to me that is very much, yeah. It leans to me towards we already changed the past, because if we're supposed to look at what things have already been said, then I imagine that's them going, okay, how can we weave what exists and make this more interesting? Going back. So it is nice. It's a good example of them ideally having plans and setting things up a couple expansions ahead in advance. Maybe even is just them like having gambits in play to see how things go. Oh, well, if we do this, we always have this to lean back on. But ultimately, I think it was very, very cool that we actually might have some content to make where we go, what has N'Zoth done throughout his time? What would he do? Why would he do this if he knows what he knows? Why would he corrupt Deathwing if he knows what he knows?
Why would Curse of Flesh?
Why would the Curse of Flesh exist? Obviously, that wasn't N'Zoth, that was
But they
Yogg-Saron.
were all working as a team at that point in time.
Yeah. So,
like the example of the Emerald Dream, it was like that touched Yogg, but then Yogg, I believe, passed it over to N'Zoth because it like was more naturally fitting.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing. Back in the Black Empire days, they were all in like natural chaos and war with each other. But then once Yasharj got fucked, they decided to kind of not necessarily buddy up, but they're allied.
enemy of the enemy, etc.
Yeah.
So I think that was the most fun part for the interview, being literally, oh, I think this has confirmed a lot of how we're thinking about it, as we're thinking on the right track. And I know he said, I know a lot of people have made videos and stuff and a lot of Reddit posts, but he did say he saw that people are having a lot of fun thinking about this kind of thing. So I was just like, yeah, we are. This is very good. This is very good. If you can keep the rules clear enough for us to have good directed speculation, then we will have a hell of a good time doing very direct speculation. Just be careful that we don't end up accidentally spoiling the expansion. Yeah. Which is what I hope to try that.
It's all, man. If only J-Lore didn't suck.
Yeah.
Do you know what I think the community almost needs? And I know that there's almost certainly plenty of good explanations and things to talk about with it. But you know the way that like there's kind of the preach Ian talks where it's like, hey, look, I know that the community thinks, and you know that I know that the community thinks, let's talk. I think one of those about some of the recent pros and cons of the narrative, I think that could potentially be useful to de-meme Steve, and also to help like de-meme the game.
Yes.
Because it's that strange thing. We do, we call things how we see them. So during the jailer times, we were very, very, very critical. Very, very critical. But even in patch 9.2.5, very positive. Even though that was still Shadowlands and all the bad of Shadowlands was still bad. But I thought the narrative of that patch was really good. And we've enjoyed the narrative this time a hell of a lot. But I think for a lot of people, obviously Jailer happened. And that kind of like damaged their investment. And I guess it's like our job is to be the canary in the coal mine. Right? Yeah. So, we kind of make the noise either to tell people, come on in, it's going to be really fun. Or, you know what? Don't invest too much in this. It's not really that great. That's kind of like our function. But certainly there were enough of the bad times that now that there are the good times, I think a lot of people are finding it hard to get on board. Not in a way that's me blaming them at all. The suspicion about things is very natural and earned by Shadowlands. But I just think it's something interesting to think about.
Yeah.
So for other things, the Ethereals.
Yeah, I knew you'd enjoy this specifically. Yep.
I'm so happy about this one because something we noticed, but it was really Jared who brought this to me in 2020. I believe it was. We did that video.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, we did our video on the Ethereals which I guess if you'd like to watch something, yeah, March 2020, man. Yeah, this video. Back when we had that intro.
Yeah.
Very good. It's during this patch and everything. But yes, we made this video about the Ethereals and Shadreen and all that stuff. And I think we were really early to the punch in this one. I was happy. We were early in this one. We were early in Muzala. I was always happy about that. Of course, Nikki's on the team because we have nice transitions and nice effects. But yeah, anyway. Oh my... Hang on.
Well,
does this content look better?
no.
The lighting looks better, dude.
Oh, lighting looks better, yes.
Lighting looks better.
That's because there's a bit of effort put into the lighting.
I don't really need as much of an insane fake comb over anymore.
Yeah.
God, that's pretty egregious, isn't it? Oh my god. Yeah, that's pretty cringe. Anyway, this is really good video. I recommend you check it out.
I love this past exploration.
Oh, past exploration is always so much fucking mental damage.
I mean, it could be worse. It could be as bad as fucking mine. Anyway.
Oh, so it's so close in as well. God, I've got the willies now. Anyway, that was a good video, and basically Steve just said, "Oh yeah,
oh yeah,
that all matters.
Yeah,
we'll do it when it's appropriate."
Yeah, I very much like that. It was just, yeah, this is it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it when the time is right. They'll be back. All that stuff's very intentional. It's all there. But I like the idea that they're void and nether touch, so it's like a little bit of the chaos in there, a little bit of the possibility. Because it wasn't part of a specific question, but there's a little bit of the throughout when he's talking about cosmic forces, he grouped a couple of them in under chaos. He grouped was it Fel, Life, and Void in under chaos, and he seemed to take joy in talking about them thematically and what they actually mean and what the how they'll act as general forces and come together and stuff. So there's a little bit of that, and him talking about them being void is like, yeah, I can see them being they like opportunity, they like chaos, they like possibilities. So it's very much we're in for a as long as it gets across to players, we're in for a pretty tightly themed couple of expansions.
That'll be balance,
I think. Yeah,
well, even the two of us.
Yeah,
you represent order, I represent chaos.
Yeah,
which means he's got his shit together and I don't have my shit together, realistically. Player-decided story stuff. Basically, Rathian Sibelian stuff ain't a vote. It's not like they're going to take sentiment of, who got the most rep points and do something, because it wasn't framed like that from the get-go. But and also just like online votes, maybe not always the best way to do things. And as for Steve's favorite flight, intellectually, the bronze, because time's cool to think about. I agree with you.
Very true.
And he has a fondness for the origins of the Black Flight, nobility and strength in being the Earth Waters taking on the challenge. And I actually have the same preferences as Steve.
Yeah,
no. Shit, I better check my Amazon wish list.
Oh no.
You made that tweet with full knowledge, man.
Yeah, no, I don't particularly enjoy many of the dragon flights, because I suppose because the blue were cool, but I never liked Malagos. He's a bit too much of a Redditor. Basically, and Kalagos is baby Redditor. He's a Star Wars Redditor family, etc. The red, I don't really like the red very much. They're alright. I think the only flight I really like are the green. But that's just because I love the nature connections of World of Warcraft, because I am just a druid. I'm just a druid at heart. I think there's no getting around it. That's the stuff I like the most. I like the Night Elves, I like the Tauren, I like the connections to the moon, to the sun. I like the Emerald Dream. I've always loved the Emerald Dream. I always think that's the best stuff. Emerald Nightmare is kind of disappointing in Legion, but that's just because Valshara was a retelling of the book with Stormrage, which sucked, Blizzard, and you should still be ashamed of that. And I would love to have an interview with Steve and say, hey Steve, why was Valshara just a retelling of Stormrage? Which one's canon?
He's breaking his containment protocol.
Yeah,
quickly.
Yeah, that's stuff I generally quite enjoy the Queen for that. But yeah, that was felt like good questions, and here well delivered. It was a good conversation as well as a good that's good. It was like obviously they bounced off the questions and brought them together pretty nicely. It was a good interview, and props to Steve. I think Steve gave a hell of an interview.
He sure did.
He's getting So I remember a couple times not really super enjoying like the first couple of my team, but generally picked it up really quick.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're really like really fun to hear him talk about.
Yeah, no, he big comes off as a natural.
Yep, indeed.
With all that.
Indeed.
Where are we? Okay, shall we talk about Brian Birmingham?
Yep. Brian Birmingham by Blizzard.
Oh, I thought I pronounced it wrong.
No.
Look at this smile. Fired.
That's a smile of a man who doesn't want to give someone a bad review when they don't deserve it.
Basically, stack ranking, which people have known has been pretty shit for a long time, is a plague, and Activision have forced it upon Blizzard.
Yep. Like I say.
So that's specifically what Brian said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I say. I mean, just because your players are parsing doesn't mean your employees have to parse against each other too. That's unreasonable. Oh, there.
Yeah, so basically, right, rank stacking, I think it was General Electric. It's either General Electric or General Motors.
I think it was GE, yeah. It was GE because it was. I remember people mentioning the CEO specifically.
So the idea, right, is you reduce the pay and whip the bottom 5% or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so you squash the bottom and elevate the top. And that overall means your trajectory goes up, right? That's the idea. Now, the problem is this is all happening with people, and that can be shitty and very demotivating, right? And the thing with Brian, though, is what he's saying is like, look, what this does is it's basically anti-patterns, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's just bad fucking design patterns. So, yeah, it encourages competition between employees. Now, there's healthy competition. And then there's very unhealthy competition, right? Where not promptly helping, let's just say one of your mates at work has a problem. And you're like, oh, fuck, let me help you. You know, even if it's an associate and not somebody you're like a full-on friend with. But like, that's good for the two of you as individuals, right? You'll get more meaning out of that. It's good for your place of employment. It's good for your social bond. Now, if you're thinking, fucking Jim, you're going to be at the bottom of the stack now, bucko. And, you know, then you'll happily enough not help somebody and be like, oh, man, I'm really sorry to hear having that problem.
It's like
anyway,
curve.
I'm going to go and I'm going to go drink. Bye.
Yep.
Right. So that's going to be competition between employees in a way that is destructive to your business and the relationships between your employees. You never want to, you know, pit employees against each other, right? You don't want to do that. So this does that. It also means that if you are only looking out for your own self-interest, well, what if you actually just want to be the rising star of a shit team, right? So you find a really underperforming team and you just sit there comfortable, barely trying, getting above par, so you look good. That is obviously very bad for the company and very bad for the output of the team.
Yeah, that's why I love the comparison to parsing, because people understand it inherently. They go, yep, you parse, you know how that works. If you get a goal parse, but everyone else is shit and you're playing like a really weak spec and no one plays, it doesn't count as much as goal parsing a really popular spec, because it's about comparison. And the best doesn't always mean good.
Yeah.
You can be better. You can be better by parsing, by stack ranking, by bringing everyone else down. And that's fundamentally it. And it's so dumb.
Yeah.
So dumb.
Chris responded to a senior designer in WoW. He's now running his own company, Notorious. And he just said, like, ironic, because stack ranking was once used at Microsoft, removed in 2013. In hindsight, seen as one of the main influences for their lost decade. Which is funny because Microsoft are buying Blizzard. Microsoft did away with stack ranking, probably for a reason in 2013.
Yeah, and I remember I looked at this, and I don't know how fair it is, because obviously people can have interesting times as CEOs, but there's a CEO of General Electric that I think was supposed to be the one who introduced this. I'm not super sure. I looked through and I went through. I was like, oh, you've had a series of failures. Oh boy, why are people using your metric? What the hell? This is ridiculous. I can't remember his name, and I might actually be talking out my ass, to be honest. But I remember giving a little bit of a read, because I saw people mention it's like, oh yeah, is there interesting management stuff, and just no. Apparently, you just use self-determination theory because that's the leading model for human psychology. Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you think about, it's funny with that. How do you quit smoking? A lot of what people talk about, it's actually, it's about your self-identity as a smoker.
Yep.
Because the chemical addiction is gone in 2 weeks.
Yep. That is cognitive evaluation theory, which is a subpart of self-determination theory. I would highly recommend looking it up because it's fascinating how you can use the lessons there to your own benefit. I've been doing so recently. It's been, or for the past year, it's been fucking class. Accidentally, obviously, and then I found it in hindsight. It's like, all right, this is actually the leading behavioral psychological model. Sweet, that works well. But it is like it's the quickest way to explain it is never say should, and never say don't. Well, unless you want negative is a good thing, but you should say I do, so I do or I don't, not I will or I won't, or I shan't or I shouldn't or I shouldn't.
Yeah, because then you fool yourself that you are the thing by wearing the intent of the thing, but you're not actually doing the action.
Yeah, you're supposed to do things because that's what you do. You're like, oh yeah, someone goes, do you want a donut? You're like, oh no, I shouldn't. That's bad because because that's you going, oh, you really want to, but there's a arbitrary method of control stopping you. There's a coercion stopping you, in the sense that we don't like being coerced as people, especially when it comes to our behavioral psychology. You look at like what we were talking about earlier with people not wanting to be coerced to log into World of Warcraft and log in because they want to. And it's the same thing of, it's like DCO says, yeah, should. Should is also laden with judgment. Yeah, should is like, should you, shouldn't you? Who says that? It's very easy to destroy. Whereas if you're like, do you want donut? And you go, nah, I don't snack during the day. Or nah, I don't eat donuts. And then you don't. And then that hooks into how your brain literally works and how your psychology works for cognitive evaluation, which is whenever you do something, you have this like subconscious process running that's just like, why did you do that? And people like answer that question to themselves is, why do I do what I do? And that's asked all the time. And the answer is usually like the most sensible thing. And it's like, well, why do you eat donuts? Because you're the big greedy bastard. Like, like why do you like, as an example, here's a perfect one. Me struggling with playing Forspoken is me having to come to acceptance of why did I go and buy Forspoken? Why am I playing Forspoken? Why am I doing this? Oh, yeah.
Well, we are all concerned.
Yeah, and I have to sit and think, okay, well, that's because I actually really enjoy critiquing video games.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get a substantial amount of enjoyment out of that. There's a little bit of anger in playing a shit game, like, why? Luminous, get launched into space. But there's also like an actual element of joy to it. I'm like, oh yeah, well, that makes sense. So I'm not like, why did I make that mistake? Because it's not a mistake. You might, like, there is a world where this is cope, and I am cognitively evaluating myself, but it is there, that idea there. You can also get a video out of it. Didn't have to play to get a video out of it. That's the fun thing about being a pundit. You can just talk about shit based on what other people have said. I've long stopped using the excuse of I'll buy this and get a video out of it. But then it's like playing Hi-Fi Rush. And I'm trying to get into the world of I'm playing Hi-Fi Rush. Why? Because I play character action games. Why do I do that? Because they are incredible and they are fantastic. Not because I should, not because I want to be someone who plays character action games, but because I am. I just do it. And that's why people who quit smoking, because my mother quit smoking many years ago. And she never once seemed to struggle with it whatsoever, despite having failed many times before. And this time it was literally there's just something clicked in her head, like, I don't smoke.
Yeah.
I
Same
don't
for my grandfather. He just stopped one day. He's like, I don't do it anymore. That's it.
Yeah, it is just, I don't smoke anymore. And that happens. It's the same with like a lot of things. Is what do? You take that identity into yourself. And this is a bit of a derail, but it's ultimately that where...
That's kind of interesting because it's like, one of the things is like saying, I am an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink in 5 years.
Yeah, there's a little bit of... There's a little bit of... Work? I think that's accepting that. I think that's accepting that and then knowing that is then changed as opposed to...
Yeah.
So I think someone suggested it a while ago, what it was. Yeah, Johan said, should places the locus control outside of the individual, which is negative for affecting behavioral changes. So when people say, oh, I'm not an alcoholic, then that's them not owning up to that locus control being internally. They're going, oh, it's something else is doing it. So they can't change that. But if they go, I am an alcoholic, then their brain just goes, oh yeah, you are then. Well, that's a fucking bad thing. we should maybe change that. And then they're able to have that process of, oh, well, you can't stop being an alcoholic if you're not an alcoholic. But if you are, then you can stop. And then they can have that whole like process of, I'll just stop that. More or less.
Yeah.
So that's how I think about it. But it is like this is a leading method of behavioral psychology, and you could use it to save your own life and meet your own goals. And also, Activision Blizzard could manage people that way and have better games for us to play. Wouldn't that be something?
Ain't that it?
Yep.
Yeah, because Brian obviously knows where he stands and things.
Yeah.
Said no to this, is fired. And yeah, so
oh yeah.
Helenka just saying this might be vague tweeting, but I think it's like your family background. Like, I don't know why I think his family background's like pretty military, but like I think there's like stuff in the thread where like
because he looks like a military man. Like,
oh, he wasn't military. Yeah, he was originally on. Oh, wasn't he on a mod team for Battlefield? Then he worked on Frontline Fuel of War, if you remember that game.
Couldn't tell you.
And then I don't know where he went after that. And then he got World of Warcraft for PvP. But like I think he basically said that just like, you know, from like his background and stuff, like he wasn't exactly brought up in a mega pro-union environment. And he's like, nope, nope, changed. And so that's like a bit foreboding of what was to come. Hamlet, when I saw he was fired, I knew there were two possible stories it could be. And both were upsetting. Fortunately, it's the one that's consistent with what I knew, which was good to his team, bore responsibility, willing to give up a 20-ish year career at a company rather than relent to unfair treatment of people they're responsible for. Hope something comes from it. Similar sentiment from Valentine, from Zoid Kirsch again, like one of the best leads I've ever worked for. He made me a better worker by just working with him. I can't believe the colossal mistake Activision is making by firing him. He was one of the most passionate people in WoW Classic and was the heart and soul of the team.
Yep, and gone. Whoops, good job.
So, John and Holly. John and Holly. And also Mike. And also Mike, Mr. Ybarra. Mr. Hazakostas. And that was the thing. This doesn't come from any of those people. Brian himself said that this comes directly from Activision Blizzard. Yep. And that is just to say, whenever I think, Preach and Co. were talking about like how Activision doesn't, impact stuff in the game, they
don't impact things in the game directly.
Yeah, they don't tell somebody to put domination shards in. Bobby's not interested in domination shards. So maybe that's something we all have in common with him. But it is these things that are the Activision meddling. I've heard from senior people before about similar things to this. I did not know about the stack ranking, in fairness, but that is something I think is relatively new. And essentially Brian was saying that like they try to hide it, not hide it from their employees. Like they were told to hide it from their employees. It's more they try to shield their employees from the negative effects, but eventually it's like that would no longer be accepted. Some team leads actually put themselves as the developing person, so sacrificing their own bonus and stuff in order to protect their team, but they weren't allowed to do that.
Insane.
So this is just stupidity at scale. Yeah, this is a humongous loss. We can only hope that the thing that comes out of this is a change in policy, because maybe it's the case. Ybarra tried to fight against this and is told no. Maybe Hazakostas and Heights and Holly Longdale, maybe they all try to fight against this and corporate says no. Well, now their players know about it.
Yep.
And it's one of those things, it's weird, like Brian wasn't expecting this to come out. This was just going to be a quiet thing. And it's one of those challenging things where we all
broke it. I can't remember.
Schreier.
Was it Schreier?
We all hope that this does not have a negative impact. I would say the fact that Brian's willing to do this almost certainly shows he is a very, very good person to have in your business.
It's like Max said, this guy's full respect of anyone under him going forward.
Bad, you think about, say, I don't know, take the commies. You think about the Soviet Union and how much of a fucking trash fire it was at, administration of anything. Right? It's the whole thing of like, Comrade, I've seen you've hit your quota by 30% for your factory. Next year's quota will be 30% higher. Up, Stalin. I don't think that's how they did it. But
Uppa Stalin,
But what would happen there is that the dude running the factory would think, well, I'm not going to fucking overperform. If I overperform, I will have a harder quota next year, and that'll suck major balls. This is not good for the productivity of the Soviet factories. It's that idea of like you are selecting for the wrong thing. It's like in fucking dictatorships, right? People are not selected for. It's sort of having a bit of evolutionary perspective and things is sometimes useful. You can think about like what are the selection pressures within a company, and if ultimately the sycophants or the politicians who it's like. You're the Minister of Health. You don't have a background in health. Or you're the Minister of Defense. You weren't in the army. They're just good at being a politician.
Yeah.
Which is bad. It's funny, even you think about
politicians bad, we get it, don't worry.
But like that's the problem, because politics doesn't really select for competency.
No.
I mean,
it selects for silver tongues and snake behavior.
Yeah, and
that's a good song title. Silver Tongues and Snake Behavior. Yeah,
and this one here with Brian, Blizzard's not like they are not selecting for the types of leaders that you would want. The person who is going to be fine with all this is a fucking scumbag.
Yeah,
who cares about themselves more than their team, which means they're going to be a ladder climber, which basically means that your org will get worse over time.
That's the thing people don't understand. It's why, and I'm going to derail this very slightly again, but I've been thinking about game developers all week more than I usually do because of Forspoken and Luminous being awful, but also Hi-Fi Rush and that game being fantastic. And you can tell, you go, well, that's developer pedigree. That's developers who spend a long time getting good at what they do, and they're the reasons developers, and I said this on Twitter in response to like Andy Robinson earlier, saying, I feel like this era of video games, like at least the best games of this era, will be defined by developers with experience, seasoned devs with the processes and production lines that will let them develop how they want to and be who they are in terms of be pure creative developers. And that's why I look at Hi-Fi Rush and go, that was an idea that John Johannes had, and the team and his boss trusted him. And I believe that was greenlit before Microsoft were actually on board with Bethesda. But then even then, Bethesda greenlit that with Tango. And they were like, yeah, go for it. This seems great. And it seems it took them a couple of years to make. Pretty, reasonably small budget with the release, you can imagine. But it was still just like, those are good-ass developers. As I think was Dream Bomb. And then I think someone else, some journalist, highlighted the pedigree on the lead designer on Hi-Fi Rush was someone who worked at Capcom and Clover with Shinji Mikami and had been close to them the whole time. Worked a lot of the same games, including Resident Evil, Okami, Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, stuff like that. And then they made this game, and it's an absolute shadow-dropping masterpiece. And that's because you can tell that the managers didn't interfere. The developers got to develop. They got to develop a nice tight scope. There were no demands on top that made no sense. It was literally just, go make a good-ass game, we'll support you. Yeah. And that's the work of good managers. That's the work of good production people. That's a good work of good developers. And that's what's going to be different now. That's what's going to make... And I think about Square Enix. I think about Final Fantasy 14. I think about FF16. And I think about the failures that Square Enix also have in other teams. And you can tell the difference is the quality of staff. The quality of staff is what's important. You see that happening at EA as well, where they have the quality of processes and the quality of staff is extremely good. And you can tell that's resulting in what is good output. And I think that's what Activision have always been really bad at this. I think back in the day with Bobby and co going out of their way doing illegal things to try to get rid of Vince Zampella and Jason West. And look at what happened there is now EA is going to run circles around half the industry with Vince Zampella's ability to go, okay, well I know how to run a game developer, so I can make everyone better.
Apex is just going to go and murder Warzone 2.
Yeah, so that's, even looking at the numbers from the museum, where Activision seemed to have given them permission to show daily or current players or so World of Warcraft. I'd have loved that. No, Warzone and Call of Duty, and Warzone being like 400k or something total. And then you look at the same time that says Apex is 250k on Steam alone, and you go, has Call of Duty actually been dethroned by the people that you pushed out of your business again?
Funny shit.
Well done, Activision. You might want to start thinking about this when you run the rest of your business, or you will not have a future. But then Bobby's leaving anyway, doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. So, 4 things. There is a super that I want to... Yes, from the King Riku. Some individuals still love the faction v faction fantasy, regardless of story beats trying to bring them together. There's been a lot of, coming together, but I hope the faction v faction crowd isn't forgotten. That's, that is actually something that's been at the back of my head for ages. Because, you know what? War's fun. Real war's not fun, but,
I've been watching Gundam, I know that.
the big fantasy, like, lemons, Ossens, kill, fun.
Humans love killing lemons.
We do love a bit of the old kill. But also it's what situations of war bring out of people.
Killing lemons.
So yeah, between faction and faction. I just think it's that thing. They keep on dipping their toe in the faction versus faction thing, and they never do it. Like BFA still didn't go full dick. Right? It's like war, not the war zones. War fronts were like bleh. The other stuff. Like, no, a faction war means that a bunch of orcs have landed in Westfall, and now Gyron Stoutmantle is back with his boys trying to, hold them off and push them off the beach. Where's fucking D-Day Westfall? As in, when I think faction war, I think about those cool what-ifs, not, what they kind of ended up doing with the faction war. So it's one of those things, like, honestly, I'm totally with you. I really, I think there's room for orcs versus humans, right? to take the subtitle of the first game. But right now, like, nah, that's just not going to happen. I think narratively. But the other thing that I like is internal tension, strife, political thriller stuff. Yeah. Like, okay, maybe if it's not a war, but if we get to do spy shit, I mean, hey, who doesn't love some spy shit? Hey, Blizzard, give us Cold War vibes in World of Warcraft somehow. But make it be between different factions of the Alliance. Because that would be cool, right? What if, people in the Alliance don't really trust each other as much? What if, in the absence of the king, some things happen, and there's the people who feel a degree of cultural affinity with Turalian, and then there's the people who don't, right? Maybe the Night Elves don't feel a massive cultural affinity with Turalian. Maybe they see more cultural affinity with the Tauren.
Yeah,
maybe we then get into some fairly interesting places. Let's hope that Bane is not a version of Anduin that goes moo.
Yeah, I'd love a world where Night Elves and Tauren are the same faction. That would be my dream. That would be my dream come true. Where it's like, finally, you two make so much sense. Please. Also, you're on the same continent. Why would you kill each other? Like, it's hard to imagine a Tauren and Night Elf in the room, but like, we're going to kill each other. Like, why? It's like, well...
They don't have opposing values.
Yeah, and then elves are like, well, they tried to cut down the tree, and the Tauren's like, I just took a branch off to honor it. And they're like, oh, sorry. Sorry. Even though watching them fight would be really cool. But yes.
So, in terms of things, we've been going nearly 3 hours.
So we have. Time sure flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, what do you think we should do? What
have we got left on the docket?
I think it's really just some of the community requests, which basically is, and we actually talked about that at the start of the show. I think the TLDR basically is Primal Chaos, bind on account. Primal Infusions, not bind on account. Nice balance between alt catch-up and still having to play your alt to get the actual good gear.
Good summary. Just fix all the problems and we're almost done. Fantastic.
That's it. Easy.
I think we can probably wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that. Let's go for exponential Valor or a mid-season uncap. So mid-season uncap can be no cap for real. Ha 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 ha.
On God.
On God.
Yeah. Night Elf.
Zoomers.
Night Elf Paladins, please. Oh, my.
What do the Zoomers do?
Okay, right. Blizzard, you have an ultimatum. Night Elf Paladins
Shit.
or make good Draenei quest lines and bring them relevant again and make them feel good, please. Because the Draenei have been...
We want to get...
I need more blue ladies kicking about, like...
Yep.
It's very sad that I'm just rolling around playing Night Elves all day long. To be fair, just give... No, that's too stupid. Because it's a good idea. I was going to say, just give people customizable racials.
Whoa.
Because I was like, I want to play a Draenei, and I know why I'm not playing a Draenei Monk, because I don't have Shadow Meld. That's mostly why. Shadow Meld is the best button in the game by far. But yeah, also, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, in terms of things, in a month our game will be out.
So will
That's really surreal. Right now we're planning a documentary series to release over the next month. That'll be fun. Yeah, but so really for me then the challenge is how do we market the game? Because we need people who don't watch our World of Warcraft channel to also know about the game. Yeah. So that would be interesting. I will say we got some pretty cool stuff, coming up. Our publishers being able to land some pretty awesome stuff. So, really happy with that. But I don't know. It's just honestly a bit surreal and crazy. I want to see if I can get us to 100,000 wish lists. We're currently at 78,000. So that will be an interesting challenge. What I can do is I can preview next month's loot, and also for any of the patrons who are here, bit of an update for you on loot. We are getting to the bottom of the problem and also getting access to an API, and all these things will be useful. So, thing number one, the Patreon loot.
Bearer form.
I can bring up the Patreon loot. Hello, January loot. There's a lot of loot in January.
Yeah,
two of them
got a few days left.
I do have on my person, so we got our first little A5
quest.
No, A6 journal.
Here, have it. Just get it under the
Pocket book for the pocket.
Look at that.
There he is. And
Very clean.
the lantern pin, which is really nice, and what I can also do. I mean, not that we can really keep it in focus, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can't see the detail, but you can see how it's nicely.
I can tell you for friggin' sure. If you want a special, like the next thing in the set, compass.
Oh, yo, give me that. I haven't seen that.
Oh, dude, the compass is so cool, right?
Yo,
Yeah, no,
that's actually gorgeous.
Nadine fucking slayed that shit.
That's crazy nice, man.
Yeah, so that's what's going on. I will say,
actually, I'll do a little size comparison of the pin because that's the first thing that. Oh shit! That's the first thing that I find interesting. Is
one is a long boy. One, came out as a thick boy. 4 things. So, got to the bottom of a problem.
Also, my hands are kind of small, so they're bigger than that. There you go.
So here's what happened.
Yes.
We hit the button to send all of the September loot. Right? And time passes, and then I'm like,
where's all the Sandy?
And then I go on to the back end with our fulfillment center. Now, this is a fulfillment center that works with football clubs.
Yes.
And big people, right? So, they ain't shitty. But it turned out, so most of the way that it works, the fulfillment center, is with a direct integration with your storefront, which means that it all, to pull a Todd Howardism, it just works. But the issue with Patreon is, of course, that Patreon has no integration. So we basically have to get a really big Excel file, and we have to format it extremely precisely, which I do using Airtable and a multi-stage process that takes about half an hour, which is better than what it used to take, which was like 3 or 4 hours. It was fun. Airtable, actually really cool bit of software. But anyway, everything looks fine, but then it appears in this tab called Sales Not With the Fulfillment Center, and they didn't get sent. But no notification told us that they didn't get sent.
Fantastic.
For like 2 weeks. So that made us all quite annoyed. And I've been talking back and forth with their support for like a month now. And we've actually got to the bottom of it. For some reason, in their backend system, a new product listing is attached to the bundle that we're trying to dispatch.
Right.
That is, and they've validated that like the CSV file is correct. it is seemingly some sort of bug. So
bugs.
I think now it's been accelerated to like the top line of their technical support. And as soon as that is fixed with their technical team, then everything gets sent. I've been very, very, very highly, extremely frustrated by this over the last while. But I think we're essentially at the final hurdle. It turned out this had actually happened once before, and then they fixed it. But this whole thing where like we didn't get a notification, so we're now just having to kind of watch it like a hawk. It will not be a problem for future stuff because we have sorted it out with them. There is an API, an open API. So my goal then is that we just develop because we make it. Look, if we can make a video game, I'm pretty sure we can use their API.
See?
Terror, but so we'll get that going on the automated, and I guess, spoiler, we're not going to be in Patreon forever. We're going to run it ourselves, and when we run it ourselves, it will be stuff that has a perfectly functioning direct API with them, so that everything will run like absolute clockwork instead of this, which has, to be clear, like not worked for us whatsoever, and also not worked for you whatsoever, which means it's been a big loss, which ultimately is my failure for not having it be fixed sooner. But that's basically what's up. These boys, I believe, like Monday or Tuesday, we send them all to the fulfillment center, and once this month rolls on, then we can get going. By Monday or Tuesday, we should have all of our issues resolved. So, quite unfortunate and frustrating, and it's gotten in the way of a lot of our plans, but I do believe we're now towards the end. It seems like we've basically helped expose a very major bug.
There's nothing better than being the kind of customer that's just like, hey, sorry about this, but everything's just broke again. And then they're like, how do you keep breaking this? Or like, we have a very slightly different use case sometimes.
So that's
and then they go, well, hell yeah, thank you.
Their use case is, imagine, say, take a brand like Gymshark, and there's just an integration. So somebody buys something in Gymshark, and you know the way sometimes you just imagine that the internet is made of Futurama-style pipes, and it all works?
Yeah.
That's what happens. Whereas for us, we have to use a manual CSV of like hundreds of orders. And that is clearly not what they do for any volume. Because it's all Shopify or Squarespace or, these other big commercial platforms that I've never heard of. So that's basically the situation. Big pain in my ass. Big pain in your ass as well. Resolution very much on the way very quickly. So we're almost there. What else? Look, it's just gonna be a crazy month with the game coming out and all of the stuff to support the game coming out, which I hope can be a lot of really good quality content for you guys. And there's some cool stuff for the soundtrack, some cool collector's edition stuff. To be clear, when we do a collector's edition, we won't be able to actually give you the game in the collector's edition, but it will be priced appropriately, so do not worry about that. Because, we are digital only. It's actually really interesting. Selling a physical collector's edition actually hurts you on Steam. Because the Steam algorithm basically only cares for the purchases done on Steam. It doesn't care for code redemptions. And it turns out the entire indie game publishing scene is based on appeasing an algorithm.
Yep.
Where have we seen that before, Matt?
Out of the frying pan into the freezer, I believe they say.
Yep. Big tier. But anyway, that's what's going on. Oh boy, it's going to be a crazy month. But hey, there's lots of fun things happening. Literally on Wednesday, a new member of staff starts.
Yep, indeed.
We're all very excited about that. Hey, we are going. We've actually got a short-term funding path worked out for after Pale Beyond stuff. So we're, it's kind of like nice. There's not really humongous anxiety, which just will definitely help us all just kind of focus and get the job done. I'm very excited for you guys to see all the many scenes, many things that happen. Actually, even today, we're just working some achievements with the Steam API.
Very sick.
And it turns out designing achievements that are good and not bad, interesting. So that was I came up here, record a video, and just the whole team was trying to, talk about like, right, how do we make an achievement, but it should actually be fun. Is it a secret achievement or an achievement that's shown to the player? How do we design it? How do we write the flavor text without giving it away, but also without messing around with people? Yeah, turns out actually coming up with a big old list of achievements for your game, that's work.
It is. That's why that. Oh, who was it? Oh, shit, I can't remember. Some developer. Was it next Ubisoft developer? Or I can't remember. But there's some developers like unpopular opinion, achievements are pointless and made the games worse. And I was just like, hell yeah, you're right. Achievements go in the bin where they belong. Awful nightmare experience. But also people come to expect them.
Ours are good.
And people really like them, and there's ways to use them really well.
Yeah.
It's just that they have a lot of inherent downsides when used irresponsibly.
Lasman stated he would play your game. Not sure if it's a positive or negative since it's a narrative game.
I imagine it's
probably a net positive.
Oh, there's no such thing as bad PR, right? I mean, that said, like, we are profoundly confident in the quality of the game.
Oh yeah.
If there's anything that would be vaguely negative, it would be someone not personally gelling with it, because it is a game in a genre, which means people might not like the genre. That's true of literally every genre. So that could happen, but there's nothing about the game that's designed to be hyper niche. So I don't imagine that occurring.
It is definitely a game that is designed and intended as a solo experience with no distractions and headphones.
Yeah.
So I would say that for stream chat, like, could this be up my alley? But it's not the best way for sure to experience the game. Now, I generally would say that about Let's Plays anyway.
I would actually go a little bit, because I've definitely had a lot of really good experiences watching interesting games with people games that I would almost never play myself. I don't mind, say, if they're a gameplay focused game or something, I don't mind the first experience being watching. There's a certain group of people I'm talking about, because I watch Gigaboots. I love those boys. But I think the watching interesting people play games can give you a different perspective on them, and you can enjoy them just fine. It's just a little bit about if the game has any particular moments or whatever else, to be handier to play it yourself primarily first, because that'll be closer to intended experience. But there's definitely value in like actually engaging in Let's Plays and stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. I guess for like the major narrative beats, definitely experience those first yourself. That will be best. Now, it's not like it's a game that like is just completely linear and with only like one ending. No, it ain't that. So you'll have a different experience. I don't know. We'll see. I've never launched a game before.
Yeah,
that'll be interesting to say the very least.
I'm sure it'll go just fine. Nothing.
I'm very confident in the quality of things.
Nothing can go wrong with launching a game. No game has ever launched and ever had like not technical issues with the game itself, but surrounding it. It's definitely not like they shadow dropped Hi-Fi Rush and then I spent an hour and a half refreshing the Xbox app waiting for it to show up, and then it showed up and then it still wouldn't actually let me download or anything for ages, and I was raging. Not at all. None whatsoever.
But it was worth it when you got there.
Oh, hell yeah.
Goddamn, that is.
I'm going to play that shit when I get home. Oh.
Yeah, if you got Game Pass, Hi-Fi Rush,
it's a
massive thumbs up.
It's a rhythm character action game, and it's not so intense a character action game that you can't enjoy it if you don't like the likes of Devil May Cry or action games. If you literally like vibing in a world that's very, hey, what if a load of people who are, because it's a Japanese studio with, I don't know exactly the nationality, but a Western director. It's very East meets West it's very like, because I know Colin Entertainment described it as looking a little bit Dragon Princey in a way.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He's
pretty bang on that.
Yeah, it's like it's very, a lot of Western animation has taken some anime stylings over the past. What people experience a lot more rarely is when anime first takes inspirations from the West. Because obviously that happened a lot with the initial run of manga being, comics are cool, let's do those ourselves. And then it diverted pretty hard. But the game is very, very, hey, this doesn't scream extremely anime. It's comic-y, it's cartoony. But obviously with like all of the correct anime stylings and the correct technical lessons from animation, as opposed to taking a lot of like the pointless or annoying tropes and story beats and stuff. And then it's also like just the experience of being in that world is such a joy. Such a joy that even if you don't kind of like the combat that much, you can use the assists, you can play on an easier difficulty, and it is such a, like, there's the way you know the term every frame's a painting? It very much feels like that when you're playing it. Every single time, so I'm just like, that is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Everything's wonderful.
I guess, like, do you know what I've realized? So,
Yeah.
Pale Beyond, I think, will better suit Zakrar than Asmongold.
Yes, 100%, yeah.
That is how I would put it.
Definitely.
Fairlin, do you use external QA team? Yeah, so two things. We actually have right now full-time QA member of staff on team. So yes, for that. Then with Testify, and then with the QA studio via our publisher. So yeah, we've this has been QA tested. Yeah. And it's just for any times where, you know, like a bit of logic is wrong. Where it's like, oh, that character should be dead right now, or something like that, where, you know, it's like some value isn't what it should be, or there's an extra space somewhere, which has meant that something, you know, is not triggered. There's been a lot of playthroughs through the game between the 3 different ways we can QA the game. And then, of course, a massive thank you to everybody who played the demo, who submitted bug reports on Discord and stuff. You guys also really, really helped out too. So that's the crack with that. I think for me, I'm going to, actually, because I have a completely free evening, play a bunch of World of Warcraft. If there's nobody around to do keys, because I want to learn how to, you know, be a good healer in a dungeon. If not, I'm really torn between Arms Warrior and Outlaw Rogue. And I know you're all going to say, you fucking meta bitch. You meta.
You are a meta.
You meta slave.
You just are.
I was playing Disc when it was the fucking bottom tier.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, who started healing holy when it started to look rough?
That was purely out of care for my fellow team members.
Was it? Nice.
I didn't want my own stupidity to hold them back.
Yeah.
As if that's, you know, like ever.
I wish the rest would care the same. That's a joke. I love you guys. You're all trying very hard.
Yeah, you know, actually, I was watching some of our kills or attempts at Egg Lady last night.
Oh, they're dirty.
God, they're so funny.
We're
actually a funny bunch.
That honestly, like,
we're basically the fucking mental home.
There's been a couple of times where we have failed pulls because people who are trying to handle mechanics cannot see because they're crying with laughter. That's me as well, by the way.
Oh yeah.
There are times where I'm on egg duty and I can't bust the egg because I'm too busy laughing.
I remember
and I can't
one time
actually play the game. It's so good.
I was, you know, when you're laughing and you can't stop, and it turns into, hang on a second, I need oxygen or I'll faint.
Yeah.
I think I wiped us one time because of that.
Oh, it's a good time.
Yeah. It's your fault for being so funny, team members. Anyway, yeah, either that or level up and alt. Purely just because Outlaw is so fucking fast, and I love grapple hook. I love grapple hook with an @cursor macro. You just feel so. It's like, I don't know. It's like wearing loose clothes. It's very freeing, you know. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is as a rogue. Anyway, I'll let you all go to bed. And I'm gonna go to the shop, get some snackage. Play some World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Increase my rating.
Yeah.
Embarrass myself terribly. That's fine. I've got Shadow Covenant now. It's great with Shadow Covenant. Just the old 35% more damage in your shadow spells. Woo.
Yep. I think that's
it's brilliant. It's beautiful.
Yeah, because you say about embarrassing yourself, and it is something I think a lot of World of Warcraft players struggle with. Being really embarrassing and terrible at the game. No, I think the point is that the only way to get good at things is reps. You just do it, and then you get better. It's have I talked this on stream before? Or was I talking with someone else? Specific adaptation to imposed demands is a term from strength training, where you basically you do something and then your body goes, "Oh, we're doing that now. All right, okay, we'll do that. We'll get good at doing that." And I think. As far as strength training goes, that as a neurological component as well, where if you do a motion, the body goes, okay, we will burn into the brain how to do that motion. We will be able to bring that automaticity. We will be able to make that automatic. We'll be able to do that without thinking about it as hard next time. And that's why, like, when you learn like an exercise, it's really hard, and then you start to do it more, and you go, okay, well, your strength isn't increasing quite as quickly, like your literal physical strength, because that requires time for muscles to rebuild and stuff. A lot of the initial strength for newbie gains is the brain going, oh yeah, we can do that. Yeah, no worries. No worries. We can, like, we know what a push-up motion feels like. We can do that without any effort anymore. We can fire all those muscle fibers off, no problem. Same with like any specific thing, and that's why, like, someone, actually, I guess an example would be the YouTube content. Recently, Eddie Hall was doing some rope climbing, and to be fair, he was 170 kilograms, so climbing rope is very fucking hard for someone of that weight. But strong enough to do a decent handful of pull-ups and stuff, right?
It's not in pounds.
That's about, I think it's like 380.
In UK and Ireland, we're still very hybrid with our imperial and metric.
Yeah, it's like it's around 370, 380.
That's a lot of muscles.
That's a lot. It's also a lot of fat.
And a lot of fat.
It's a lot of fat. He hasn't trained in like 9 months.
Oh, okay.
He's definitely
Big
fat.
boy.
Yeah, but he was trying to rope climb and was being taught rope climbing, and it was clear, like, this person can lift a lot of weight. This person can, like, do pull-ups and stuff, but they can't climb a rope.
Oh yeah, it's like
then,
gym bros whenever they go to the rock climbing gym.
Yeah.
Big clowning occurs sometimes.
Yeah, because that's specific skills, specific adaptations to impose demands. You need to do something to get good at something. So if you're having trouble being good at a thing in World of Warcraft, the thing to do is literally go and do that.
It's not the size; it's how you use it.
It's the anyway. That's the thing I.
It's like you can have very big muscles, but like not really have the neural connection to. To use them properly in whatever function you're trying to perform.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
Basically, everyone needs to become the pioneer.
Yeah, so that's what I noticed very much about playing Feral, where there's times where I've now noticed that I can, especially as soon as I hit like reclear, and now in my head I was going, I know all these mechanics, I don't have to think about it anymore.
A fucking mind-muscle connection with your buttons, and now your buttons hit harder?
They don't hit harder, but they are automatic now. Especially, I noticed that with blood talons, where the process of, do I have blood talon stacks? No. What's my energy? What's my dots? Okay, I will press this, and this time, and it'll happen. That used to be like, oh, how do I figure this out? Oh god, this is really distracting. To me being able to do that without thinking about it now. And that's just because of automaticity. That's just because I have done that repeatedly. And now there are neural pathways in my brain that go, oh, we're blood talons today. All right, do that, and you're like, sweet. Same with playing Ninja in FF14, where it's like, I used to struggle really hard every time I would like not play for a couple of weeks or whatever else due to patch downtime stuff. I come back and go, oh, how do I do my opener? But I've now done it with enough reps that it's like permanently burned in the back of my head. And I just go, all right, there we go. Yep, got it perfectly fine. And it was like, I've been playing Ninja for a decent amount now, but especially since like the end of Shadowbringers, but it took until this patch for the muscle memory to fully be burned in, enough to stay after some downtime. But I just come back and hop into Rubicant and just done. I know all the buttons. I know all the buttons I need to press. It's perfectly fine. And I think that's the case where if you say if you're bad at M+, you want to get better at M+, the solution is go do M+. You can also do things like practice your rotation and stuff like that, and practice like having those. But once you can do it once, and then you have to do it until you can do it automatically. And there's no amount of you being able to do your rotation on a training dummy that will translate 1-to-1 to you being able to do your rotation in a Mythic Plus. And that's not even the same as doing it across all of Mythic Plus. That is, if you never do Ruby life pools, you're going to lose DPS in Ruby life pools compared to other ones, because you won't be able to just do it automatically. And it's all about reps. You have to go reps.
Yeah, even with Egg Lady, there's a bunch of things. It's like, I have a feel for this fight.
Yeah, it's
I know when to ramp.
Yeah, it's that where you say, oh yeah, I know how this fight works, so I can do it now. And then you start to do it automatically and think about it. It's like us doing eggs. The first couple times we're like, where do we go? What's going on? How do we do this? And then now it's just like, yep, 3 and 2 and 2 and 3 and then I get to go, instead of panicking, oh shit, where are we at in the fight? I just look and go, yeah, we'll do 3. And then I say, we'll do 3, and then you guys know to have something ready, and then we're done. Reps.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't mean we're done as in we've killed the boss.
No, we have
got
not
her to
killed
20.4 something, I think.
18%.
Was 18?
18 was the last pull,
yeah. Fuck, okay. Yeah, it's just, that's the problem here. Team Healer runs out of juice.
Yep.
A little bit too early right now.
Yeah,
but fun fight.
Yeah. Oh, and Ross,
fun raid. Yeah. Such a good raid.
And Ross is asking about some stuff that's happening in the Omega Protocol. So did you know in Final Fantasy 14 there's a buff and debuff cap of 30 per player? You can only have 30 buffs or debuffs. That's usually not a problem.
Oh no.
However, one of the mechanics, Hello World, in the Ultimate applies 6 debuffs. People are now hitting the debuff limit, and they have to change classes that they're actively progging with to have fewer overall buffs on their team members, because they were running into issues where they literally were like Monk using its Riddle of Fire, or I think there was one where I saw a load of Sage shields going out, and the way it appears on the screen is it shows up just as has no effect. So it's just Riddle of Fire, dodge. You're like, what do you mean? So yeah, Final Fantasy 14 is a very well architected game, very put together,
perfect.
and I can't believe they didn't test that. That's actually insane to me that they didn't think about that. But also, I would suggest if you know what's going to go and look up some of the progression. FF Logs has a great tracker. Go watch some of the like Phase 5 progression. Watch some of how Hello World is done. I don't know how it's possible. I genuinely don't know how it's possible. I want to eventually get to Ultimate at some point in time, but man, between Dragon Song Surprise and now the Omega Protocol, if they can keep Ultimates coming, this means like as long as the game stays up in like 5 years, they'll be like, all right, deck tuple legends, you're the greatest players of all time. It's fantastic, truly excellent. But fucking running machinist instead of dancer, so you don't dance and throw up a load of buffs on people. It's crazy, like
Some classic shit.
yeah.
Oh dear. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Farewell. Or maybe it's not night where you are. Who knows? Maybe it's Australia and it is
Tomorrow morning.
the morning,
It'll be middle of the night.
middle of the night. Yeah, no,
It'll be like 4 a.m. or something.
it would be. Would it be?
Yeah, it'll be 4 to 6 a.m.
It's probably the evening for most of us then.
Well, maybe it'd be getting into the evening for Americans, especially like the West Coast.
Yeah.
West Coast to be the afternoon. Yeah, there's Johan in Texas, 3:43 p.m.
3:43.
3:43.
I say that as like it's a profound thing. It's like, whoa.
3:43 is profound. Halo lol.
Oh, John 17. Incredible.
Sorry,
That
your
hurt my
favorite-
throat.
Your favorite
Whoops.
game destroyed. Yep. All right.
Yeah, I feel sad about Halo, but I hope they pull it back.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for watching and joining us this evening once more for whatever the hell this was.
Yes,
Good talk
it
World of Warcraft and then some unhinged stuff. But yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, we've all, as seems to happen every episode now, we all learn a bit more about lifting
Oh.
from the man with his protein milk.
Yep, that's me.
Yep, he's well themed.
Yeah, that's me.
Fantastic.
Yeah. This is what you call when you don't want to eat any food because you've had the flu for a week and your body's not dealing very well. You just have a load of good calories this week.
Everyone's getting sick,
Yeah.
dropping like flies.
I would not recommend whatever flu's going on here. I would
Not
not
good.
recommend. I've been wrecked. Like, I haven't deleted.
Fuck, I'll get it from you. Where'd you get it from? Gym,
I
guess?
either got it from the gym or the shop, one of the two. The only two places I go where other people are. I'm not even joking. This is kind of sad, actually.
When did it set in?
It's set in Friday. It's set in 24 hours ago. No. 7 days ago. Sorry. What's it? What?
Well,
yeah.
we both went to Tesco.
Yeah, after that.
So if it was that shop,
Yeah.
it was either that shop or the gym the next morning. Or no.
No, it's set in 7 days ago. Like, it's set in on Friday. So it was whatever. It was like Wednesday or something. It must have got it. But like my walk home from this stream last week was possibly the worst I've ever experienced.
I remember your message.
I was hunched over, shivering, walking home.
Oh my god.
It was dire. But yeah, all good, eh?
Yeah, I remember you be like, I hope I'm okay for Monday.
Yeah, I hope I'm okay for Monday. Here I am, back. Well, I mean, I was actually, I wrote a video on Wednesday, but like that was me still not at work, and I was only back yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Yep.
I don't know. Don't get sick.
Yep.
Have your vitamin D.
Vitamin D and C.
Because they obviously helped you so much.
I don't take vitamin C. I should. It's probably got me. Yeah. Yeah, I don't take vitamin C because I used to eat a lot of oranges and then I stopped eating oranges and then I got sick. So there you go.
Correlation equals causation, as we are all aware.
We are scientists.
Yep. Oh man, right. Have a good evening, everybody.
absolutely.
Time to go play some World of Warcraft
I really want to play Hi-Fi Rush, but I might do some KZ.
in the office
Yeah.
because I need to pay $3.5 to get a new boiler in my house. It's not a house; it's an apartment.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. No running water.
Yep.
No running water. No heating. The slight fear will explode, which the boiler man has now set at ease. But yeah, turns out, don't have your boiler go fuck. Also, my boiler, turns out, it's 18 years old, and it was the absolute bottom of the barrel budget model 18 years ago.
Landlords, love them.
Landlords. Yeah, could it not have went when the fucking landlord would be on the hook? No.
Nope.
No, thank you. Oh, God. Yeah, and I have to get a cherry picker out to do the flume, or the flu, or whatever the hell it's called.
Grim, yeah,
Oh.
the flow, yeah.
I just fucking hop off the cherry picker.
Fantastic.
But yeah, boilers. Boiler repair people. Fucking hell, they know arcane shit.
They do.
Anyway,
Let's actually go. All right.
time to play some Mythic Plus. Goodbye!
Yep, goodbye.
Nothing like a soothing Mythic Plus to soothe you to bed.
Absolutely. Good night, everyone.